Previously on the show.
I don't want to start off on a tangent, but I'll do it anyway.
I've been sick since like March, so I'm going to do my best not to be a mess, but bear with me.
I apologize that you've been sick so much. Like, is this like long COVID? Are you okay?
No, it's just like I've just had a cold. Like my kid goes to 2 different schools, so it's like
okay, I got you.
Germ City.
And it's allergies right now. It's really bad.
It's long cold vid.
See what pisses me off is that Disney refused to do a Lizzie McGuire reboot, or revival, and ended up doing How I Met Your Father instead because the creators of Lizzie McGuire wanted Lizzie McGuire to be a 30-year-old person who, imagine that, has sex.
To be fair, in the current climate of the All Quiet on the Set Nickelodeon expose, you know what? Disney being like, we don't want our characters having sex might be an okay thing for them to have as a standard. Like, I hear everything you're saying, but like simultaneously at the, in our culture right now, it's being blasted across the airwaves, all this stuff about like the dark side of kids television. So
I do want to clarify a little bit. I'm not saying that I wanted to watch Lizzie McGuire do it. I'm just saying that they were going to have storylines that involved Lizzie's sexuality as an adult. I want to make sure that was clear.
Let the record reflect.
He's like, I want my wife to know I was not trying to see Hilary Duff partially nude.
Hello, and you're watching The Show, probably the world's best TV review podcast. Warmest greetings and welcome to episode 69 and the second ever megasode of The Show. Here today, we review the 2014 HBO supernatural drama series created by Tom Perrotta and the great St. Damon of Lindelof. Join us as we celebrate 10 years since the premiere of the best show that no one watched, The Leftovers. I'd like to welcome you inside the broadcast booth. I'm Jay. I'm joined, as always, by my 2 Hall of Famers. To my left, it's the tenacious man himself, a man of faith, a man of science, and the show chief of police. It's Aaron.
Hey now.
And to my other left, it's TMP the PMP, the man who felt all of this coming and can take away your pain with the power of his hugs. It's Tony.
Hello.
Here at the show, 100% customer satisfaction is our holy grail. We want to hear from you. Check out our Instagram for news about the show, including our postponed 2025 tour, convention, and cruise, along with plenty of other bonus content. You can find that at the Show Pod. You can send your emails to the showtvpodcast@gmail.com. You can find our YouTube channel, Mandamus Radio. You can find me individually at jsuasponte. That's JAYSUASPONTE. And Aaron, where can we find you?
On the Muscoverse at Tenacious Aaron. One day I will post on there, I promise. There's a day coming where I'll have something to say to the entire twits of the X.
And where don't you post, Tony?
I don't post on Instagram at tpenquite. TPENQUITE. If you want to see random clouds, then I guess you can find that there, but not many posts popping up on there.
The show is now available everywhere podcasts are sold. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Overcast, and Pocket Casts. You can also check out our YouTube channel, where in most episodes we'll do a bonus cocktail hour. But today, we are bringing you a very special episode of the show. Typically, we digest one season or series of a show at a time for nice bite-sized pieces, but sometimes a show comes along that deserves our full attention. We did this for our 50th episode with one of the greats of television history, Twin Peaks, and as 3 somewhat completionists, we decided we want to do that with one of our favorite shows, all 28 episodes of The Leftovers. And I'm really excited to be talking about it with you guys.
Mm-hmm. Excited.
Now we're going to take each season in strides. This first section, we're going to talk about Season 1. Season 1 of The Leftovers is a story about what happens when the entire world has survivor's guilt. We pick up 3 years after a catastrophic event dubbed the Sudden Departure, where simultaneously and instantaneously about 2% of the world's population, I think it was about 140 million people, all poof. And we're told right off the bat that we don't know what happened. We have no explanation. We don't know where they went. We don't know why it happened. And the show itself has no interest in that whatsoever. We're dealing primarily with the town of Mapleton, New York. We've got Police Chief Kevin, played by the great Justin Theroux. We've got Kevin's daughter, Jill. We have his at first wife and then ex-wife, Lori, who is now part of a cult, the Guilty Remnant. We have... Who else do we have? We have preacher Matt Jameson, who works to prove that this was not the rapture, that those who left were not the righteous. We have his sister, Nora, who lost both her husband and her 2 young children in the sudden departure. We have some other minor characters like the daughter's friend who lives with Kevin, as well as these 2 twins who drive a Prius. And
one other major character is Patty Levin, like the main antagonist.
Oh, of course.
If there is a main antagonist, I think she's it.
We also have Meg,
Shut up, Meg.
played by Liv Tyler.
Of course.
Everyone's favorite elf from Lord of the Rings.
The great Liv Tyler. I think it's fair to say that the first season is very character-driven. I think we spend about the first 6 episodes kind of going around the horn and giving each main character their feature to get to know them. And we don't really get a lot of, or really any, plot until the back 4.
There's a lot of development, a lot of setup, world building, if you will. Kind of exploring the, like you said, survivor's guilt, that we kind of get like a sample view, right? Like this is a town that is experiencing the same thing that the rest of the world is experiencing. And so we're getting to kind of feel that through this, small town's perspective. And we kind of see, like, as time goes on, different emotions, different things boiling over in the town, and then the individual personal situations that people are dealing with, through this situation.
Now, just before we came on air, I was talking to Tony about how this is a show that I think we've all watched before. I've watched the first season a couple times, and I haven't watched any of it since the finale aired in June of 2017. And I've only watched the first season so far, but it hit different. It definitely hit different. And straight off the bat for me, very first scene hit very different with the young mother with the crying baby, where in my past life, before I had children, I could be a little impatient with people with children. I could probably be kind of a dick, if I'm honest. And now that I have children, I'm much more sympathetic to the people who are dealing with a child who needs to be comforted. But I had the opposite reaction with this woman in the first scene of The Leftovers, where pre-kids, I was thinking, oh, this poor woman with the crying baby. But post-kids, good Lord, woman, put the phone down and comfort the child. What is wrong with you?
She's stressed out.
Like, I know you've got stuff to do. Believe me, I get it. I've got a 1,000 things that I haven't done yet that I need to do. But you can also just take a moment to get the child out of the car seat and comfort them. Oh man, I was almost rooting for the sudden departure at that point.
The opening sequence was very impactful, and it in a very great way kind of introduces you to the mystery and kind of the sudden departure of everything. How in a moment there was this global change. Because of how harsh I criticized Watchmen, like I really wanted to come into this and be like, I know I really enjoy this, so I want to kind of be like, why did I enjoy this? I want to feel all the different moments. And I will say also, having seen the 3rd season, having seen the end, I don't know if we want to talk about it from this perspective, it did shape my perspective quite a bit this time through. Right? Like trying to think about all the people that disappeared from the ending's perspective, right? Or what they propose. Like that kid, is it just sitting there in the car in the alternate reality?
If that's what really
if
happened.
if that's what really happened, yeah. And I know spoilers, just letting everyone know.
It's a little late.
Yeah. So again, if you don't know this is a spoiler cast, that's on you.
If you're tuning in on the 69th episode.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned. Anyways, but like I definitely think right off the bat the show does a great job of immersing you into the confusion, the panic, the fear, the chaos of that day, and then immediately jumps you forward.
It does, yeah. This is, I guess, well, y'all have already reviewed the first season of The Leftovers.
No.
No, we
Y'all
just
did
have
it?
all seen it. We just have seen it.
Oh, we've just
okay.
seen it, yeah.
I thought the pod had already done it before I came on. But I guess it's unique here where we've all watched it, where it's usually, not all the time, but it's usually a show maybe we haven't all seen, so it's kind of we're coming in fresh. But it is like, I thought maybe I would like characters more, having known like
Where they're going.
their stories up front and where they're going, and just like, man, I just still, all the characters I hated the first time, I still hated them, and I'm like, maybe even more.
Who did you
Like
hate?
who? Yeah.
Like, I hated Lori even more. Like,
Interesting.
especially because you don't start off knowing that she's Kevin's wife. Maybe they should have at the end of the first episode, but she's just like some guilty remnant member, and then she's Kevin's wife, and then that kind of falls into place. And then like way later on, maybe towards the end of the first season, you find out she was like a psychiatrist, like a therapist that helped people with mental problems. I'm just like, how does this? I know she suffered a horrible, like basically a forced abortion, like when her baby got like poofed from inside her own stomach.
Got
And
Thanos snapped.
I can't imagine, like, obviously I have no way to like relate to that or imagine that scenario happening, but just like, this is a scientific professional with like 2 children, like forget her husband and their like marriage problems, but like a daughter that very much needs her mother, like obviously as a show like details, and she knows like that Patty is basically like has huge mental problems. Like, who knows? I guess she changed and got way stronger after the departure, but it's just like, how did this person, like, I can't reconcile, like, I can reconcile the need for like maybe divorce or being separated from her husband, or she needs more therapy, but I can't imagine just completely like siphoning off her entire life. And then Jill, like, obviously I'm not a teenage girl that lost her mother, but just like the whole first season, like, I know she gets way better in the second season, but I'm just like, as like her best friend Amy says, like, if you just give your dad a little bit of break, like I think you could be okay, and I think he could be okay too. It's just like, it's never ending shit.
It
that she
felt a
gives
bit
her family.
forced with
Yeah.
Jill, right? Like it felt a bit like, I'm gonna be an obstinate piece of shit bitch, right? Like it didn't feel like she was like just naturally like, this is something that's unacceptable. Like she's picking fights. She's just trying to cause problems. And I guess maybe that's seeking attention. But on this Lori topic, I think this is really interesting because I didn't hate Lori. I didn't like Lori. But I do agree with you. Like, I feel like her just kind of dropping everything, absolutely, ignoring her daughter, and then following Patty. Like, it's like, why does that make sense? Now, I understand the trauma. I understand, like, being rattled. And I think that there is a sense of realism to how people who go through trauma, like maybe someone, a couple losing a child or something like that, there's a chance that that trauma can overshadow the needs of the child that is still there. And that, I think that's a very real situation that people can be faced with. So I don't think that that's unrealistic as a scenario, but I agree with you. You are the person who's treating Patty as an unstable individual in society, and yet she's clearly, designated by whatever higher power to lead this cult. And also, just real fast, because Christy read the book, which this is based off of.
Oh, yes.
And one of the differences is, she gave me a list of a bunch of stuff, but one of the differences that I thought was really interesting is that the guilty remnant is not nihilistic atheistic in the book. It is, in fact, just a straight, like, the rapture, this is the rapture, we're going to be the second round. That's why they smoke. Like, because you're not going to get cancer, you're not going to you're going to get taken away in this next round before you get cancer. So that's why it's a sign of their faith. I always felt like in the show, it didn't make sense, like some of the things that the Guilty Remnant did. But when you add back the religious aspect to it, it kind of makes a little more sense to me. But I thought it's an interesting choice that he chose to remove the religious character of the Guilty Remnant in the show.
That's interesting. 'Cause I was feeling a bit the same about how the Guilty Remnant is very interesting aesthetically, but ideologically it kind of doesn't really hold together why so many people are so attracted to it.
Yeah. Just pure nihilism is not that attractive, right? Yeah. It's never really explained what is your faith? What is your belief? It's just kind of like that we're going to remind you of what happened, that it's not normal. Okay, but if it's like that it's the rapture and the second coming's happening, that makes a lot more sense in my mind, right? That that's what their faith is, and that's why smoking doesn't matter because you're not going to get cancer, right? Mm-hmm. Now, additionally, a couple of other changes that I think that are worth noting. Lori and Meg become in an intimate platonic relationship as friends. They break their vow of silence regularly to talk in private. And the Guilty Remnant arranges for Lori to shoot Meg, but she cares too much for her and can't do it, and Meg ends up shooting herself.
Shut up, Meg.
Whoa.
Oh.
Yeah. So the Guilty Remnant like staging the deaths of their members is definitely from the book as well. Matt and Nora, not related in the book. That's something that they changed in the show.
Okay.
And Matt reveals the affair that Nora's husband had to the world with his newspaper. Also, Kevin and Nora only date briefly. She thinks that Kevin's kind of boring. And then Kevin's also not the sheriff. Kevin is a positive, healthy-minded entrepreneur who becomes mayor.
Oh. What?
Yeah. Kevin's a completely different character in the book.
So I know you didn't read the book, but do you know if there's the element with the father and the...
Nope. Nope.
Wow.
Like the previous mayor went crazy. And Kevin, good guy Kevin, runs for mayor to take his place. So from what Christy said, the show is better. Like, she said that they took the story of the book and the characters and they kind of remixed it a little bit. Like, I think she even said, like, Holy Wayne is not that, like, holy. Like, there's no ATFC. Like, there's no alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and cults. Like, that's not a part of the story in the book at all. So, like, a lot of the elements I actually think that are really, like, additions that make the show better are kind of adjustments that Lindelof makes. The only one that I think is weird that kind of actually loses some meaning is the GR becoming nihilistic, non-religious.
Mm-hmm.
But I also go back to, when did this come out? This is 2014. This is post-Bush era. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's still quite a bit of religiosity in the conversation in that time period. There's also a lot of strong conservative reactionism going on right then. I just think that may be also a sign of the times, if that makes any sense.
Did she say in the book if Kevin still is having, like, these, like, does he or does he not have psychotic episodes? Or...
No, none of that's
okay.
in there. It's completely an addition by Lindelof. And that's what I was saying. I think that a lot of the things and changes that he did are good. I think that they took a story that was probably mid and made it much better. And also, it doesn't extend past season 1.
Right.
Like, the book stops.
And I think season 1 stops at a good spot. Like, when I finished it, I was like, you know what?
You could have stopped.
I do love a lot of season 2, but I wouldn't have been sad if it was just one season. But it is crazy, like, the thing, well, not that I didn't think about it the first time I've watched it, or I think I've watched it 2 or 3 times now, season 1. But, like, it is crazy to think, like, on paper, like, 2% of the world's population going away, like, that's such a tiny number that you wouldn't think the world would basically be
in trauma,
stuck in limbo after that. Yeah, just, like, permanently, unconditionally affected. But, like, when you see the show, like, you realize is, like, it probably would. This is probably what the world would be like.
Well, let me ask this question, because I don't disagree, but I do like, in history, in our own history, not alternate history, not anything like that. Like, there have been times when, like, huge swaths of the population just died, right? You know, the Black Plague, the Spanish influenza, things like that. War, you know, just generally, World War I, World War II, the entire, 20th century is pretty rough. And so I don't necessarily feel that most people walk around with survivor's guilt like it's portrayed in the show. Do you think it's not from the disappearance per se or loss, but rather from the unexplained disappearance?
Yeah, and the instantaneous nature.
Yeah.
One, it's unexplained, so you don't really know, like, are they alive or dead? Which is, like, the main thing explored in the show. Of just, like, people just can't get over their grief because it's, like, unresolved. And then, I think it's, like, immediate. Like, like a war that lasts 5 or 10 years and, like, millions of people die. It's like, okay, yeah, they got shot. And it wasn't everyone died at the same time. Maybe Hiroshima.
Yeah.
But I think it is the unexplained part of it that's the problem.
I think it has to be. Like that. Jay, what do you think?
No, I think you're right that it's so unsettling, and it calls into question everyone's beliefs about what life is and where life comes from, where we go when we're over. But I've also always taken this aspect of the show as an allegory for 9/11.
Oh, interesting.
I think the setting connotes that, where in a commuter town outside of New York, in the very first episode, we see Kevin, I don't know if he's jogging, but we definitely see the train. Mm-hmm. So we're told in visual language, this is a commuter town to New York City. And I think in those towns, you probably lost, 2% of people. So you might not have lost someone in your immediate family, but you know someone who died. You know someone who knows a husband or sibling who died. And then the question of, we don't know why it happened, I think that's exactly how we all felt on that day, where we had never heard of Al-Qaeda unless you were like a real news junkie. You might have heard of Osama bin Laden, but you didn't understand that there was this conflict happening, and all of a sudden there it was.
It's also pre-YouTube, right? Like, that's another thing I think it's hard for a lot of people to think back and grasp is, like, that time period is, like, internet videos existed, but the way we shared them was a lot harder. Like, It didn't pass around.
You wouldn't see a clear camera phone video if there were cameras on phones in 01. Maybe there was a Razor. Was a Razor back? I feel like that was even, like, 04, 05 or something.
I raised the specter again that this show is influenced by the post-Bush era. Like, I think it's really interesting that you tie this back to 9/11 because, like, I don't think that that's a bad interpretation. I think that that's a great allegory for how in a moment an entire country's world was affected, right? It's not the same effect, but a small loss that we collectively felt in a moment. It's very fascinating.
It doesn't really fit the preacher who I kind of wanted to get into, Matt Jameson, he's so frustrating as a character.
How so?
Like, he's that guy that you're yelling at the screen, just go home, or don't take it one step further. You always have to take it to the extreme, and then he does, and sometimes he hits it big at the roulette table, and sometimes he gets attacked by fake Danny Masterson in the parking lot.
But Danny Masterson.
So how did you guys feel about The Preacher?
I actually really enjoy Matt. Matt is a bundle of interesting conflict, especially because I feel like if I lived through the sudden departure and I was a person who was part of a religious community, I would be bothered in the same way by people saying that it was the rapture. I have other problems with the rapture as a concept, like, entirely, but with regards to specifically the idea that, like he said, these aren't righteous people. These are awful people. These are good people. These are in between. I understand his obsession from that perspective, especially because he is a person who has made that his life. And again, his background story and everything, and then what happens to him in the to his wife in the sudden departure. Like, there has to be some meaning for him, but he can't accept that it's the meaning that everyone or many people believe it is. Specifically the GR, if you're reading the book. I think that is another thing that is really interesting, because without it them being like, it's the second coming, it's the rapture, we're going to be next. The conflict between the GR and him is not as poignant. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to save them, they don't want to be saved, but I continue in the show to the one thing that baffles me is like, what is the Guilty Remnant's appeal? What is their message? And that this is not normal, I get that, but like it's not really a great rallying cry. You know, like, I don't really understand why people are drawn to it.
Right.
Yeah, that makes more sense of like, because the whole thing is like the world and life stopped and everyone wants to act like it didn't, which I feel like it makes more sense in the context, like you said, of the book, where it's like, okay, if they're just waiting around for the next round, then yeah, nothing does matter.
Nothing does matter because something's going to happen, and we recognize that we're in line to do that. And that's what I'm saying. I never understood what the Guilty Remnant's point was, other than there's no point in living because 2% of us disappeared, or there's no point in getting over it, no point in getting past it. And then take it a step further, we should kill each other and blame other people to get them upset about the fact that this was not normal. To me, the Guilty Remnant is kind of odd at the end of the day.
I think just something I thought about when we were talking about the departure, like, I think another part of it is like, it's just like a scientific mind fuck. Like, everything we know says it's not possible. I think that's another piece of why it's like so hard to come to grips with. It's like, people don't just like literally disappear into thin air. It's like, not, if you're not super religious, it's like not a thing that your brain can reconcile.
I feel like there'd be more Matts. I feel like that would actually be a bigger contention. Like, I don't feel like it would be like the lone, priest. I feel like there would be entire groups of like the Catholic Church or the Baptist Church who are like, we don't accept that. So that's another thing I feel like that I wish that there were more Matts. Now, you don't like Matt. Is it just because he pushes the envelope at the point when you know he's going to get punched in the face?
You know what? I don't necessarily want to say I don't like him.
I'll say it.
You can.
I both like him and I both dislike him and love him, because like, I like that he's like the punching bag of the show of religion. Like, we prayed for her this morning. Oh, well, she woke up last night. Like, that was kind of like a sick burn that I was a fan of. And then, but I do love him because he's like almost pure. Like,
I was gonna say his motives are pure.
Again, we're like spoiler territory, but he just like, Kevin calls him, I need help. I did a bad thing, and then she wouldn't let me go, and she killed herself. And he like, just like, he knows it's true because he believes in his friends, and like, that's kind of like, that's a person I want in my life.
Genuine.
Like, yeah.
Yes.
He's genuine.
So it's like two sides of a coin. Yeah.
His genuineness also, though, leads him to take things too far, right? These situations that he finds him in, it is still driven by his genuine motives. It's just,
it's his ego. He is right. Like, he
is
knows.
right. You're right. It's
Yeah.
ego.
I think it's sometimes that he invites persecution, and I think I'd stop short of saying that he relishes in it, but he definitely invites it. But when he does it, he's usually right. Like, he's usually in the right. So he frustrates me. He pushes me. He's a challenging character.
I found that I didn't really care for Lori, didn't really care for Jill. And honestly, Tommy, I don't understand why Tommy's in the situation Tommy's in.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like he witnessed a suicide and then he found a hot Asian chick to crush on.
The whole, like, Holy Wayne, I absolutely believe that kind of shit would happen in this scenario. Like, hell, David Koresh happened when nothing wild was going on. Like, there's going to be nutsos left and right taking advantage of an event like this. To me, Holy Wayne in that story, I think, very much felt like something that would happen. But Tommy just, I don't understand why that makes sense for his character to be in that situation. Like he saw the disappearance like everyone else. What'd you say? He saw someone commit suicide?
I think it's a flashback of in the first episode. They're like, "What? Like, why'd you quit college?" And then it shows like two people holding hands jumping off a rooftop of a college building or something.
I do faintly remember that.
He's like, "Oh, reasons" or something like that.
I don't know. I was not really convinced by that scenario.
Yeah, it's like we need Tommy to get the baby, but like otherwise, you could kind of cut that story.
Yeah, you could just follow Wayne without Christine.
Yeah, I felt the same way about the daughter and a lot of the twin shenanigans. That was comic relief sometimes, which I guess you needed, but it didn't really fit with everything else.
I didn't hate the twins. Like the twins, I enjoyed because, like you said, they were comic relief. But also, like, Jill's such a sourpuss. Like, any scene that she was in, if you didn't have the twins, it would just be melancholy.
Yeah.
Just kind of, like, balanced it out a little bit. So that's why they were so over the top.
I think the timeline is hurt. It's like, this show doesn't explain a lot, but I feel like, actually rewatching it, I kind of, like, realized I'd never really had the timeline right. Because it's like, it's been 3 years since the departure. Tommy hasn't been gone that long. And I don't even think Lori's been gone. She's only been gone like less than a year, like maybe coming up on 1 year. So like for 2 years after it happened, like they were still kind of like
a family.
She was trying to make it work. Tommy was halfway normal or going to college or something. Maybe if they explored that or did a little bit more explanation of like how those 2 years went for Jill, maybe we could feel more sympathetic. But like the way we get her is just like, her mom abandoned her, her dad stayed, and yeah, like before the disappearance, he was like, she could sense he wanted to go away, but then like, as we find out when he is like talking to, who's he like confessing to Matt, he's like, I was just so happy. He's like, they wanted me, like they were happy to see me, and it's like, it's all I ever wanted was to be with them. And so like, I feel like he was almost like, if we believe his words, he was changed, and like that's kind of the show portrays him as like, he still cares and he's trying to like hold what's left of his family together. So like the version we get doesn't allow for us to feel any sympathy for the way Jill's behaving. Like why she's like directly punishing Kevin, and he's like, from what we see, he's trying his best to like just like keep them together. I don't know.
I was curious to know your guys' thoughts on how this show relates to the Rapture, because it seemed, like I mentioned, it's been quite a long time since I've watched any of this show, but I feel like season 2 and 3 didn't really go in that direction, didn't really even ask the question of whether this was the Rapture. It was kind of concerned with other things. But season 1 on this watch through felt like much more convinced that this was in fact the Rapture. So I was curious if you guys had any feelings on that.
I think the book specifically is like, hey, this is like what would happen if the Rapture took place, but from a non-religious perspective. Like, I think that was kind of the pitch of it. So I definitely think that maybe that because they're bringing the first season from the book and they had that source material, maybe it has a little bit more of a flavor of it. I can't remember Matt in season 2 or 3. I know that he takes on different roles as the show goes on, but he still kind of has a religious nature, and there still is a religious aspect to the show. But I think that
you mean the virgin birth that happens?
like, oh, well, that what's his name? Kevin is the second coming and shit like that. Like, there's quite a bit of exploration of religious, imagery. I would say that it explores religious concepts in a different route. Also, like, this is what I kind of alluded to earlier. Like, the Rapture is one interpretation, but there's also the resurrection, the second coming. There's other aspects of Christian religion, like end times or eschatology. And so, like, I feel like the season 2 and 3 are exploring more kind of like post-apocalyptic society collapsing and some other religious themes about like messianic figures and like salvation and things like that. I don't think that that's out of the ballpark when it comes to the Rapture. I just think that the Rapture is a very specific, iconic concept that is kind of the springboard for this entire show.
it carries on other seasons. I like that the theme is it shows you so many things that it's like which side are you going to be on? Do you think this paranormal supernatural stuff is happening, or do you not? Like, do you think it's all in people's heads or just coincidence? Because like the show literally never, like, it never shows the people his dad's talking to. We see it mostly from Kevin's point of view, so we can see like him seeing Patty's ghost or whatever, but we never, and we see like what he thinks are visions, but the show never tells you like this is a hallucination, this is real, like this is supernatural, and other people are experiencing it. Like it's always like an isolated incident. Like I love the part where it's like you don't know, like it takes Jill and Amy coming back to the house while that guy's holding beer and him saying, "Can you put this in the refrigerator?" for us to really know if like the dog killer dude with the truck is real.
Real. Mm-hmm. Also, only one mention of dogs in the book. It's like there's a pack of wild dogs, and that's it. I like shows that mess with your perception of what's going on.
Yeah.
That is something that...
It's like Undone, right?
Yeah. You know, Mr. Robot is another great one. Like any type of show that kind of messes with you not knowing what's really going on. I think for the show we watched, what was that one, Legion, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that one? That one also kind of messed with your perception of reality.
Yeah, shows that make you question your own memory.
Yeah, I think that this show to some degree is playing with that, and I think that they do a fantastic job of leaving you like guessing what did happen, what is real, because there may be real things happening and overlap between what Kevin is experiencing, right? So clearly he's seeing Patty at the end of season 1, driven by his guilt, but I don't know that has anything to do with his dad's mental illness, or if that's just pure, you know, self-induced guilt, you know, hallucinations.
Man, I took a different interpretation this time around, where I took it as the father had been talking to Patty the whole time.
I think that that's what you're kind of like in some weird way being led to. But that's what I was saying is there was nothing that Patty said that I feel like really confirmed that. Do you?
I thought he just had his own people.
Yeah.
Like Kevin ends up getting, like we see it in season 2, but like Kevin ends up getting like a parasite version of Patty. Like I felt like Kevin Sr. had one
his
or
own
multiple versions of like that going on, telling him to do things.
Because I thought in the scene where we see Ghost Patty, we only get one scene of that in this season, and I thought that she kind of passes between them, where I thought Senior is talking to her, and like both Senior and Junior, they don't even have the same name, do they?
Yeah, it's Kevin Garvey Sr. and Kevin Garvey Jr.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, okay. Well, Senior and Junior, I thought they both talked to Patty in that moment.
They do. Like
So-
Senior sees her.
Okay.
That's why he's like, "Do not turn around,"
Yeah.
because that's what like.
Well,
I feel like makes
again-
her stick because he acknowledges her existence. Yeah.
Led to believe. I think that when it comes to psychosis, when it comes to crazy, he could be seeing his own vision of whatever and say, no, don't turn around. And now Kevin, who's dealing with his own mental illness, is expecting something to be behind him. Who's he going to see? Patty.
Right.
Well, it's also just a vision because he dreams it in the car.
Okay.
He thinks he gets thrown into the mental asylum, but he wakes
Yeah.
up and he's not.
Right. It is a dream. That's true.
Yeah. Because his dad's hair is like buzz cut, whereas before it was like 4 inches long, I feel like, around the
catch.
sides.
But so the people that the dad talks to are those people that he killed? If you know, Kevin is seeing Patty because he killed her.
Maybe. I mean, it wasn't his dad in the war.
Yeah, and he also he went nuts, and did he attack a school or something? What was the, you know, why is he in
He tried to burn down a library or something.
the library?
I don't think anybody
That's
was
it.
in it, though.
But was he trying to destroy the National Geographic because he didn't want to have to give it to him? And then that's what he finally ends up breaking down because like they wouldn't shut up. Tried to keep you out of it, but
Have both of you guys seen Wilfred?
I've seen some of it.
no.
You've seen some of it? You've not? Okay, that might need to be something we talk about later.
Ooh.
Oh, the only reason I bring it up is just because it's another show that kind of deals with what's real, what's really happening.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. I think it's a fantastic artwork piece. I don't know. I think that we're supposed to believe that Kevin is kind of being led down this line of you're special. There's something going on here that's beyond you. But isn't that also kind of one of the symptoms of these types of mental conditions? Like the believing in a grandiose conspiracy?
Yeah, they call it delusions of grandeur.
Yeah. I feel like at the same time, since we can't always tell what is vision, what is reality, what is dream, like simultaneously we can't decipher what is a, delusion of grandeur.
Well, and things escalate after he destroys his medication.
Yeah.
He flushes it all down the toilet after he talks with his dad. And then he beats the shit out of Patty and abducts her, and he was already having lost time moments or whatever. But.
Well, let me ask the salacious question. Did Kevin and Amy have sex?
I say no.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
It's that is in
it's
the book.
planting the seeds.
Yeah,
because she dresses so scantily, and they have little conversations that he doesn't remember.
I just know that Christy specifically mentioned there was kind of like a little too much flirtation one morning at the breakfast table, and kind of like, that doesn't need to happen. So I think that that's interesting. Like, I think that it was just to lead to Jill's, accusation. And I think that Amy, especially in the show, is portrayed as kind of a troll.
Yeah, super sarcastic.
Super sarcastic, willing to push buttons, willing to do the thing that everyone is like, I can't believe you did that. So I feel like it's in her character to push that button, especially because it's pretty clear that it's really upsetting Jill, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just think she's a troll.
Yeah.
Her whole speech, I think, is like she's mad that Jill would even ask her that question. Actually, that's totally made up. I feel like saying like, "How dare you?" Like, yeah, I did that. We fucked on a pile of guns or whatever. Amy was like one of the best characters. She was with Jill through everything, and then I guess she fucked the guy that Jill had a crush on, but it only seemed 50% willing.
Yeah, but there was a game that they were playing, so obviously the rules of the game apparently take precedent. I
mean, apparently New York high school's got some crazy shit going on, because it wasn't like that in my small town in Texas.
They didn't have cell phones back then.
Oh yeah, we didn't have we didn't have that level of technology.
Yeah, I was not cool enough to be invited to that party. Like, rapture or no rapture.
I don't know that those parties really existed, so. Although, when I remember being a sophomore and the seniors in my media tech class told some pretty wild stories, so I assume that they probably either made up or were those exact people that went to those kind of parties. Anywho, I feel like this show holds up from the last time I watched it. The story is compelling. The emotional states are very, very powerful. There's a lot of character development, and again, like we've been talking about, the messing with your perception is excellent. There are some questions that I feel like this show doesn't do a very good job of answering, and not like the whole like, where did everybody go? I mean, like, why the GR is the way they are, why they're attractive white people are showing up and compelled to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that there would be more humor, weirdly. Like, I feel like, gallows humor is something that is pretty prominent whenever massive trauma happens. I think that goes back to the Black Plague, and that one of the ways that humans process loss is humor. And I really feel like this show doesn't really touch on that outside of the twins being a generic kind of like laugh track. So thoughts on that?
I think that's what's so likable about Kevin and Nora's interactions. It is like that. It's like, oh, you're getting divorced too? Yeah. That's kind of their whole dynamic.
That's fair, and maybe that's the outlet for it. But I just felt like there wasn't a lot of comedy about the sudden departure. And I feel like, especially, today with what we see on the internet, that there would be stand-up comedians making jokes about it. Like, I mean, I'm glad my fucking brother-in-law's gone,
Well, the bartender in the first episode was like, but Gary fucking Busey?
Gary fucking Busey. Yeah.
The music is still killer. Like,
Yeah.
just like the original soundtrack music and the like real songs too, but just like the little piano, the slow piano really hits it for me.
It's just like Twin Peaks,
Brought to you by Twin Peaks.
where the music starts before you even really notice it's there, and then it swells just at that perfect emotional moment in the scene, and it all just, like Laura's theme with the it melds together so well. Yeah.
I still love that the finale part where he goes into the house, it's on fire, and it's just like, it basically is just the music, no sound effects, but it was like the house fire seems so real, except for him like passing out from smoke inhalation, but it just it just feels like he's in a burning house. It's all like slow motion and running around, like he doesn't care who the people are, like he just wants his daughter. So I don't know, it's like I really like that part.
He's such a great police chief.
Because everybody else died in there.
Yeah, everybody else died.
But he's like, Jill, where is she? Rolling people over.
And that's the only thing that Lori would break her vow of silence for.
Did I imagine it, or maybe it happens in season 2 and we haven't gotten to it yet, but I seem to remember there was a prominent scene of Kevin jogging and listening to Where Is My Mind? But that didn't come up in season 1. Is that just coming up later? Am I crazy? Am I Kevin?
Matt, I don't specifically remember that scene, so I think we're going to have to watch season 2 and see if we find it.
There's like, I think it is a thing. There's also like a acoustic piano of like Nothing Else Matters, when like all the Guilty Remnant are walking out of their house to go, is it steal the pictures or drop off the bodies? One of those times. They're all kind of like walking out of their houses.
Yeah,
getting
it's dropping off
advanced.
the bodies on Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am a sworn hater of that kind of thing, of like the piano and cello rock covers of rock songs, especially in commercials. But I don't know. It didn't work for me this time.
Do you hate it even whenever the band themselves does it? Because there's like a whole Metallica album called Symphony of Metallica where they partnered with, I don't know what symphony it was, but I assume it's a good one, and did a bunch of their own songs with a full symphony backing.
I mean, I guess no. It's more like when you take the song and just like completely flip it, and not in a good way. I love a good cover. I hate a bad cover.
When I went to the restaurant and they were playing like clearly like It's Getting Hot in Here by Nelly, and it's no lyrics and it's just the jazz version. And it's like, oh, they can get away with playing this one. Everyone knows what song it is, right? Everyone heard this song before and knows what they're singing about. But now, because it's jazz and it's no lyrics, you can play it and anyone can listen to it.
That sounds terrible. Like
It was pretty awful.
Like if you were gonna make a personal hell for me, you would have like HGTV, like Asher and Whitney style on, and then just nothing but that kind of music playing.
Well, don't tell me you didn't like the trailer for The Social Network with the like choir singing Creep, though. That was a ballin' trailer.
Oh.
That was a pretty bomb trailer. Also, my personal hell would be basically like any era of Kids Bop on repeat.
I saw a commercial for Kids Bop and it had Miss Jackson by Outkast as one of the songs. And I'm like, and the words weren't any different.
No, it's really funny how many songs got Kids Bopped.
Oh, yeah.
Me and your daughter. Just like, some say it's puppy love. I say it's full grown. I'm like, oh my God, this little 12-year-old white boy singing this song in a kid's like environment. Oh.
Well, I all I know is that I've seen 1,000 of those commercials. I remember seeing like the Now and Kids Bop and all that different shit. It's kind of weird that we don't have that anymore, but the next generation won't know what it's like to wake up to weird infomercials in the middle of the night.
Those first few Nows and the Totally Hits CDs, those were awesome.
Yeah, no, the Now and the Total Hits and stuff like that, those were fine. They were just compilations from that year. It's when Kids Bop, which was just like
Dude, Kids Bop is definitely still a thing.
I don't
Like-
doubt. I have no doubt that like every single pop song has a Kids Bop version. Like that is I guess
Like, you know that Lil Nas X song about having sex with the devil?
if there is a Kids Bop, whatever it is, what's it? Call My Name.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! Please tell me that that's real.
Like Ludacris, I wanna lick you from your head to your toes. That takes me back. I'm like, man, this is crazy. That was on the radio back in junior high, middle school. I'm like, I think songs are definitely more suggestive now. But I'm like, some of the songs I used to listen to, pretty intense in that way.
I am absolutely fucking speechless. Like I have found the Kids Bop Montero Call My Name behind the scenes Kids Bop 2022 making of video. Like what on fucking earth? My brain is absolutely blown by this fact, and I know that this is not we're talking about the leftovers, but oh my god, what has happened to the world? Like I feel like an old man now, but like I'm just like that doesn't need a Kids Bop version.
Well, in episode 1, Kevin says people aren't ready to feel better. People are ready to fucking explode.
Yeah.
And I don't really know when it started. I think it was exacerbated by the pandemic. But, I mean, in sitting here in early 2024, if you were going to describe the feeling of mankind, I think I might quote Kevin.
Yeah, I find that weirdly the pandemic has a lot of the same elements that the leftovers covers. Like I think that you could even kind of take it as a weird allegory for it. People lost people, it affected everybody. Things didn't ever go back to normal. People wanted things to go back to normal. Weird cults arose.
There's a lot of things just because I have seen all 3 seasons, like there's a lot of things that I thought were in this first season that aren't in this first season.
Oh.
Like they mentioned Meg's mom died the day before the departure and her grief was stolen. That's like Matt's words about it.
Yeah.
But I could have sworn like it must be in season 2 we get a flashback of her like having a lunch dinner with her mom or something. Like
But Meg takes on a whole like, leader of the resistance role in moving forward, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas in I read
starts
like,
a violent guilty remnant basically.
Yeah, the violence chapter, the Branch Davidian version, and
they wear sepia clothes, not white.
Yeah, no, but like I said in the book, Meg kills herself, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting how they took that character and made her a vehicle for like a very different story moving forward, and I think that I like that choice. I honestly feel like the Guilty Remnant needs purpose moving into season 2.
Yeah.
They feel a bit aimless in season 1.
We don't even really interact with them that much. I feel like we follow Meg and Tommy. Tommy gets a little action. And then we find out, I don't want to get too much into season 2. We find out they're a bigger part of the season 2 story than we originally thought of. But I feel like we don't see them that much.
I haven't started rewatching season 2, and it has been since I think whenever me and Christy started dating, like I watched The Leftovers because she was like, it's like my favorite show, and so I watched it and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So yeah, I think 2017, it was like right after the ending, the 3rd season came out, that I started watching it.
I was telling Jay before we started, there is an episode in season 2 that I would watch the whole series for, just to get to that episode. Like, I think it's my favorite TV episode ever, maybe.
Tony's favorite episode. Making a note to come back to this.
It'll be obvious.
It'll be obvious which one it is.
All right. It's clearly
It's the one where
obvious.
Alexander Daddario shows up with her. Daddarios.
Oh, okay. Is Daddario's plural there? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Lindsay was like, hey, when's Tony's birthday? Because for that month, you should suggest that new Alexander Daddario show.
She has a new show?
Yeah, she's like a witch.
Yeah, I saw there was a witch show, but I never watched. And it's already out and done, right? Probably canceled by now.
It's on AMC Plus, which I don't have. But if anybody wants to rewatch Mad Men and spring for an AMC Plus account,
Well, she was in White Lotus season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yes. You know who's going to be in White Lotus season 3?
Carrie Coon.
Nora. Yeah.
Carrie Coon. Very excited. I love her.
Yeah. I really enjoyed her performance in season 1. Like,
It's supposed to be in Fargo, right?
Yeah.
Did we do the first 2 seasons of Fargo and Show?
Just the first.
Just the first? Okay. I kept watching.
I keep hearing it's so good. I watched the second season, but that's a show I wouldn't mind going back for on the show.
Tony, have you watched any of Fargo?
I think I started the first season, but I don't think I got too many episodes in.
Was the Ted Danson the second season or the first season?
Oh, number 2, yeah.
Number 2, yeah.
First season's like Martin Freeman and Billy Bob Thornton. I don't know if anyone carries over. I'm assuming it's an anthology type.
Everything is like a
Correct.
decade before. Like, it's the best kind of show where like you start in the 2000s and then you go back to like the 70s. It's like goes back in time. It's interesting.
Yeah. And I've heard subsequent seasons, especially the one that just wrapped up, were really, really good.
FX does some good shows that are under the radar.
Yeah, they got a show coming out about Japan that every time I see a commercial for it, I'm like, ooh, Tony's watching this.
Miami Vice is coming back.
Yeah. Miami Vice.
I will say, these showrunners got... I don't think Justin Theroux, outside of Leftovers, has ever done anything as good as far as his acting performance. And yeah, we were talking about Carrie Coon. Like, she is by far and away, like, the best acting professional on this show.
I agree with that. I'm trying to think outside of Mosquito Coast, which was garbage.
He's on Maniac, but he's like a very small, like, still scientist role, I think.
I just can't think of a lot of stuff that I've seen him in outside of Leftovers.
Charlie's Angels 2, Full Throttle.
He was in that?
He's the Irish ex-boyfriend, bad guy.
Oh, it's been
Drew
so long
Barrymore's
since I've seen
ex-boyfriend.
that.
That's funny. I remember what you're talking about, but I didn't even make the
And
connection.
he's the breakdance DJ with dreads in Zoolander that had the breakdance fight. He's that guy too.
That's some weird like roles that he's taken.
I think he's like either a
that's some
producer
breadth.
or a writer on a lot of comedy movies, I think. Or not a
Yeah.
lot, but some.
I mean, I now have to go look into some of these things because honestly, I think that he did fine in Mosquito Coast. Mosquito Coast just was not a
I
good
mean, it's
show.
yeah.
It wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault. That's what I mean to say. He did just fine, but
Yeah.
he couldn't carry garbage out into the dumpster. So he is so good. I think he's very, very good in this. I think that his performance is believable. I almost feel like he is having memory problems. Maybe throughout this show,
He's
he just
great at
couldn't
being
remember
pissed
the
off.
lines. Yeah, he's just angry and can't remember his lines. So that's how the character is portrayed.
I mean, I believe he's like, "Fuck you, Lori." I was like, man, I never had a marriage argument, but I felt that was real. But after they put the bodies back, like the little fake bodies, and Nora's crying, and it's all like, there's no sound, or maybe there's like music, but it's like, you can like see the veins like in her chest and neck and face, like when she's like crying. I was like, oh, like this lady's like legit crying in real life, like hard, like this. It's like, this is a great actress right here.
But also, how absolutely ass were some of those body doubles?
Is that a sex doll?
Yeah.
Is that Dennis?
Well, yeah, of course.
Not good.
They blew the budget on the one at the conference, and they're like, we can't do this for 70 of these things. We don't have the budget.
Yeah, I just was looking at whenever it got to the ones, like, I feel so bad for laughing, but like, when it panned and she's like weeping and it showed their faces and they looked like doofuses.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't help but laugh. Like, I just looked at them and I was like, they look like dorks.
Why do they all look shocked?
Nancy, don't have the melon. That's not good melon.
Yeah, they're like, I couldn't stop. I just looked at it, like, this is such a sad sequence and I can't stop laughing.
Patty, what are you doing to them?
That's the thing. Is like, what would you do? Let's say you are like someone who lost someone, and you show up, and like they give you a ridiculous doll that doesn't look like the person. Like, you're just like, why is there a stranger in my house?
Anyone else thinking the whole time, like, where are they getting their funding? Even if everyone
Yes.
that joined in this town gave them all their life savings, they still couldn't afford these operations that they're running.
I don't know. You forget that there's some people who have stupid money, right? Like, just one of them joins, you could buy a whole neighborhood.
You know what's impossible to find? that I want so bad is like all the police clothing looks ballin'. I was like, I want that one shirt with like the maple leaf and the Native American head on the back, like the Mapleton Police Department, and the sweet like hats and stuff. I'm like, you cannot find any merch online that's like looks legit. It's all just like someone made it on a computer and put it on Etsy. Like,
Well, we should do like a group costume sometime. Like we should all get together for Halloween, and you can be Kevin, and then I'll be I can be a guilty remnant guy.
Kyevan. Kevin.
Hi, Vaughn. Because true story, one year for Halloween, I went out on 6th Street in Austin dressed as a member of the Guilty Remnant, and no one got it. Not a single person.
It's
It's
probably
like you
because
said-
you weren't chain smoking cigarettes the whole time.
Okay, I wasn't chain
Did you have a
smoking, but
notepad?
I did. I was in a white sweatsuit. I'll post the picture on the show Instagram. But I'm wearing a white sweatsuit. I've got the notepad. I've got the cigarette dangling from my lip. I've got like half a shave going. Not a single person got it.
It's like you said in the intro, like nobody watches the show, and I cannot get anybody to watch it. And I don't know, it's like, is it just us? Like, even my sister and I watched most of the first episode, and she was still kind of like on the fence on if she was liking it or was going to continue watching. I doubt she continued watching just because we got like interrupted with like 10 minutes left and did something else. But I was just like, what? It's like, isn't this show so good?
It's interesting.
Like, yeah.
It's a tough sell. Like
I just like being depressed as fuck, and this show lets you feel that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I was going to say. Do you think post-pandemic people are looking for something that is not traumatizing, not exploring trauma, that maybe is exactly what these people are saying, like that they don't want to think about it? Like, I don't know. I could see like the average, HBO watcher not picking up this and picking up something that's more upbeat or silly or something like that. I mean, myself included, I'm watching Tacoma FD just for fun. Like, I'm not going to put on something that's like a really heavy show just casually, right? I don't know. Like, could that perspective affect what people are looking to entertain themselves with?
I mean, it's definitely
Probably.
possible. Like, I guess the trauma that I want to consume outside of the leftovers is like people being eaten by dragons, like stuff that I couldn't actually possibly relate to.
And there's closure because you see them getting eaten by the dragon.
That's true.
Although I feel like dragons were so like 2016 Game of Thrones.
You guys aren't stoked for season 2 of Hot D?
I haven't watched season 1 of Hot D.
Oh, you got to Hot D that.
I feel completely lost. What's that?
House of the Dragon.
Oh, I didn't watch it, nor did I watch the Lord of the Rings, epic. Although
I started the
for-
first episode and I was like, fuck these hobbits.
Well, yeah, alum of the show Adam has begged me to watch the Lord of the Rings Amazon. He has raved about it. He loved it. Like, he just absolutely thoroughly loved it. But yeah, I just was like, I don't care. Like, yeah. I was like, man, I don't really care about any other era of Middle Earth. I barely care about the one that they made the movies about. I'm not a big high fantasy person. Weirdly, I like sci-fi over high fantasy. It's really hard to drag myself to watch a 12-hour fantasy TV show.
Well, we're 10 episodes through a 28-episode fantasy TV show.
I don't think this would be fantasy. This is
It's like paranormal.
yeah, paranormal. Fantasy is like, swords and dragons and shit.
You know what I'm a sucker for is or at least a show that can trick me into thinking it's well planned out. But like, one thing on this show I really appreciate is like the very first scene is like you said, the woman with the baby, and she's in a parking lot of a grocery store. She loses her baby. Someone with the shopping cart's just rolling, and then you see a car crash behind her in the street because some driver has disappeared also. And then when they put the bodies where they were when they disappeared, there's a body pushing a shopping cart in the same parking lot. I guess we don't see if they put the baby back in. That would be hard to pull off. But like, then you, in a flashback of Matt, when you see what happened to his wife to make her basically a paraplegic, like she was in the car they got crashed into by the person that poofed that was driving, like in that same very first scene. And you see like the lady from the first opening scene of the show like screaming from like a different angle. So it's like, oh, someone had to plan out multiple shooting angles or like reshoot it with everybody in the same spots and like connect all these pieces together. And like, I don't know. I like it when maybe they didn't think that hard, but I like it when it tricks me into thinking like someone spent a lot of time planning out connecting things together.
It's the Charlie Day meme with like all the red wires everywhere in the mailroom. I completely agree with you. I love a good payout where things tie back. Like one of my favorite things to do in case you're watching a movie is like trying to predict what's going to happen. And I love it when you have something you're like, oh, that was shown to us earlier, and you finally get that connection back to something significant that you didn't even know was significant. I completely agree with you. They do a great job of tying that all together with this season.
Well, I am really excited to get into season 2 and talk about that next time with you guys.
I'm ready.
Absolutely.
Any closing thoughts on season 1?
I think so.
Still like it a lot.
Alrighty, well, we will be back with you after these messages. Welcome back to the show Megasode. We are the Baby Carrot Boys. I'm Jay. That's Aaron.
Heyo.
And that's Tony.
Hello.
Hello, lovelies.
And we're talking The Leftovers Season 2. Take it away, Tony.
Yes, Leftovers Season 2. We find ourselves with the Garveys again, this time in Jordan, Texas, in the Miracle State Park, which surrounds and protects it. And we also meet the Murphy family, John and Erica and their twin kids, Michael and Evie. This season, I'd say it's like, I don't know, 60, 40, 65, 35 Garveys versus Murphys, but we do get a lot of Murphy family action. This starts right after the events of season 1, where we've picked up Lily, the small baby that was Wayne's baby, and they're ready to get out of town, and they wind up going to Jordan, which is the only town over 9,000 or 5,000 population in the world, I think, or at least in America, that had 0 departures, as we saw in the first season, and then the hijinks ensue. I guess the main plot point is Patty Levin's spirit or ghost or Kevin's psychological issues have him seeing her and how he can hopefully get over that.
We also have Lori and Tom's story, you know, kind of the remnant left over of their interactions with the GR and kind of Tom taking over the role of Wayne. And then we also have the evolution of, what's her name? The GR lady, not Patty.
Meg!
I totally blanked out Liv Tyler. Meg. Into the radicalized, violent GR in this season, which I think are pretty big components.
Yeah, I guess the other major part is like there's a possible second departure.
Yeah, that like they're investigating if there's a second departure. And like the whole reason why they're moving there is because like most people, they want to feel safe. That seems to be kind of what we're left with, the reasoning why everyone's going to Jordan.
We get a new opening title sequence. Any strong feelings on the new opening sequence?
Fantastic. Very, very good. The song was very well done, well written. I thought the images were fantastic and really good. Like I liked it better than the first one personally. I felt the first one felt very foreboding. Whereas this one felt a little bit more kind of like, you don't know what you're in for. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, agreed. I think when I very first watched the series back in the day, I was like, oh, I like the first one better. And then the second season opening grew on me, but it's still grown on me. I think I don't remember what I think the third season just reuses this one, right?
But it's a different song, right? Isn't it like a different version of the song or something?
They do different music for each episode.
For each episode, that's what. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, the visual is the same as season 2.
But yeah, I love the like one or multiple people being faded away into like a different background in the picture,
and that it wasn't just the exact same picture. That it was almost like a different dimension or something that you were looking into.
Yeah, a lot of them seem like contrasts. Like one's a blue sky and the missing person is a storm, or like. Maybe it was like warm and it was cold or something, or like it seemed to be not all the time, but a lot of them were like contrasting. Seemed like to me.
something that got me on this rewatch was that the one frame that shows pretty prominently in the foreground a soldier. I think it's actually somebody from the Air Force, so you might say an airman. But there's somebody in military fatigues with their family. And that same stock photo was used for years on a Navy Federal Credit Union commercial that they would run during football games. And I just couldn't get that image out of my mind.
Everyone uses the same stock photos.
Yeah, but I think the first time that I watched through the show, I did not like the new title sequence at first, but it really felt like in a lot of ways this show found its footing in season 2, and I think that opening sequence fits it a whole lot better than what we got from season 1.
Which a lot of it is like season 1 is more. There's a lot more religion in there, and so that kind of makes sense because like what the season 1's kind of like old like ceiling painting like
Renaissance paintings.
Yeah, I forgot. Like I've always liked season 1, and I always watch pieces of season 2, but I'm like, man, I forgot how good season 2 is.
So I have some different feelings. Like I do think it's very good, but I also feel like I had some issues with some of the construction of some things that kind of threw me for a loop, and I'd like to raise some of those things with you guys.
Yeah, go.
Because number one, Meg going to Jarden, when that came back around, I actually was sitting there thinking, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Especially with the context of both Matt and Nora not knowing about Jarden until Matt is told and then tells Nora. Nora works for the DRD. She works for the Department of the Department of Departures or whatever. And there's this whole discussion about how there's emails going on about different things that are relevant within that industry. And there's the whole conversation with the guy who's coming to verify if Evie had departed, and he was talking about like that theory about lensing or whatever. So and he was, oh yeah, we got that, that newsletter about that just like a couple months ago. So when we get to the point where like Meg has come before the events of season 1 to Jarden, there's already a national park set up at that point in time. And
I think it's brand new at that point.
At that point in time, you're right. It's within the first 2 years, though, that they get the park set up already. And there's the wristband and all that. But the thing that I don't understand is why wouldn't Nora and Matt's researching obsessively, right, the departure to make his arguments, why would they not be aware, but Meg would? And it's only because she was looking up someone who's doing hand readings or tarot or whatever. She's looking for someone to connect to her mom. So that was one thing that I kind of was like, when we get to the episode where she goes to Jarden, I was like, I didn't feel like that part was natural for Jill's story or her trauma. Like, I know they used the right words, but like, again, wouldn't she have a lot of resentment for the departure and stuff like that? I just didn't see why she would think that Jarden, if she was so upset about her mom and the grief being stolen from her, why she would have any value, interest, care with Jarden at that point. So that was something that kind of my brain couldn't really jump past. So I wanted to raise that with you guys and see what you thought about it.
I guess I don't know if they didn't know about it, but maybe they didn't think it was real until Matt came there and he had that experience with Mary waking up. Because I think like we don't see them find out about it. They're moving there. Like we want to get out of here, and then all of a sudden they're driving a truck to that place.
But we hear through Nora that she found out about it from Matt. Matt tells the church that he finds out about it from the pastor he had been doing mission work or something before the departure. And so again, though, my point being is simply that in the world we've been delved into, that was created, Jarden and Miracle, especially with the fact that people are looking for good news, I guess, I feel like that would not be something that would be word of mouth found out about, right? There would be national news. So I guess that, and also federal park, right? It's a national park. National parks are listed on national websites and things like that. So
yeah, that would be a huge deal. Like I feel like that would be like major news for a long period of time of the federal government creating a national park around a living, breathing town. Mm-hmm. Like that just doesn't happen.
That just doesn't happen.
And there'd be more than the people that are waiting outside. There'd be
A
way
lot
bigger
more.
in
It would
canon.
be like the difference between like the castle and then all the peasants that lived around the castle. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And so that was the kind of thing that I was sitting there and I was like, the season is fantastic and the acting is absolutely top notch. But there were some parts where I kind of like this. I was like, man, this doesn't feel like it really fits with Meg's narrative. That's the thing that I kind of came away from, is what, like, her being violent and being, aggressive. I don't have any issue with that. That seems like she was kind of going down that route in season 1. But like at the beginning of season 1, she's mousy and, torn and broken and all this stuff. And she doesn't even feel like that way that much in Jarden. I don't know. It's harder to read her there. The other thing that I wanted to bring up that I wanted to ask you guys about is like Lori and Tom's story and the GR generally outside of them coming to Jarden. They feel superfluous in a lot of ways. Like I don't feel, and I know that we're going to get into this at the beginning of season 3, but like, I feel like the GR becomes less relevant because they don't have a religious context. And again, remember in the book, the GR is like, hey, this was the rapture. The second coming is coming. We're waiting for that. So there's a reason for them to give up on life, right? Here, we're kind of left with that cryptic discussion that we had in season 1, where like the nihilist, oh, there's just no purpose. There's no reason. We can't explain it. The world ended. But like, obviously the people are moving on with their lives and all that stuff. And so like the purpose of the GR in season 2, like it almost feels like a cleanup. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone else, but I just feel like Tom's and Lori's story kind of flounders and then they just kind of abandon it and then come to Jarden also. I don't know. I felt like that part of the story was the weakest.
Yeah, I think we absolutely needed Lori for the scene in the motel.
Yes.
Where Kevin breaks down and Lori almost like goes into psychiatrist mode and kind of treats him in a way. Because, we really, really needed that for the grounding of the show. But yeah, like what you're saying with everything else about turning Tommy into
Wayne.
a bad holy Wayne, what did that really further?
Yeah. I felt like it floundered. And that's the thing, is that like, I feel like Lori, like I agree with you. I think Lori needed to be there, but they could even like chasing Meg or something. I feel like there could have been a better way to get her down there. Lori doesn't come off in the situation great. I mean, she already isn't great, but like, I didn't have a lot of sympathy for their situation. I didn't really care that much. And I understand that Tom's broken and all this stuff, but I feel like he's also kind of all over the place. And maybe that's just the way he's written, but I don't know. Like I'm having a hard time seeing what Tom's point in season 2 was. Like in season 1, getting the baby to them, absolutely. That whole storyline kind of comes to a head. Here, I just felt like Tom was here because he was in season 1. So
I don't remember disliking Tom when I first watched it, but this watch through, I'm like, bro, Tom, what the frick, man? Like,
Yes.
I guess I can't relate to having a biological dad that doesn't want anything to do with me or whatever, and how that like would affect me emotionally. But it's like before the departure, he seemed okay. Like, I don't know, like he has like Kevin's not he wasn't always a great dad, but like I feel like he wanted to be there for him, and he was there for him, and it's like he just refuses to like have anything to do with him. It's so weird. Like that just seems. First season, it seems like, yeah, he's off doing his own thing, and he's like cut off all his family because he's like doing stuff that he knows they probably like pull him away from. But it's like, I don't know why he's still acting like that.
In the final episode, when Tom is road tripping with Meg, like both my lady wife and I found ourselves like actually yelling at the TV screen, like, why are you doing this? Like, what's your motivation of going with her? And then they had a very David Lynch stop off at the Roadhouse and dance and have a drink. And I found myself thinking, would this be nearly as entrancing if it wasn't the absolutely beautiful Liv Tyler in this role? You know, it was almost like the whole moment is just writing on that it's two hot people.
I think you're right. I think that's probably why it feels lacking, is that it just feels like it's eye candy, right? Like they're just putting them up on the screen because they're attractive people.
I don't think that storyline would get made if this show was made this year. Like she literally like he's like, "Why'd you fuck me?" Like, no, dude, she like raped you. Like,
yeah, that's right.
It was rape.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that storyline would be like told in 2024.
I think it could still be told.
Well,
I
it
think
would be
that these
told. I
kind
don't
of
think it would
stories
be
can still
blown
told.
off as like he's like, it was all right because she's hot. Because she's Liv Tyler. I did think like
Yes.
I
Yes,
did like
exactly.
crazy Liv Tyler was like superior Liv Tyler. Like this, she was way better in this season than last season. Like,
Oh yeah.
I was like, this is like a role made for her. It would be Arwen and Crazy Meg season 2.
The sequence when she's talking with Matt, and again, I'm going to say it right now, Matt again takes the cake for my favorite character.
Dr. House.
Hugh Laurie was Dr. House, not Doctor Who.
So, but whenever he's talking with Liv Meg, and they're sitting there, one of the things I noticed that, and I have to give her massive props for this because it really sold the scene, is the way she waited to answer every question and thought about the answer before answering it. Because it gets back to how she's kind of coming into this whole calculated kind of sociopath persona, and Matt picks up on it. Like, that's the thing that I think was really well written and acted in that scene, is how subtle it was and how Matt still picks up on it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I like that scene a lot. I think Matt recognizes it because he's like
Deals with people a lot.
Matt hides his true nature a lot, and I feel like that's what he was able to see. Like, oh, he's like, your thing used to be your grief was stolen, but this isn't what you're putting out there. I don't know, Matt and Laurie, I always like watching this season again too. I'm just like, I dread the Laurie and the Matt episodes because I do not like them. Like, they're not bad. I just do not like the episodes that are about Matt and then Laurie's episode. And this one too, I was like, man, when the Laurie episode started, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this storyline. This is gonna be a long hour to get past this part.
I definitely, whenever I remember that there was the whole, Mary's pregnant storyline, I was like, ooh, like kind of a...
Yeah.
I do love, it's bad because like you said, I love Matt the character. Like, I love it when it's not his story, basically. That's what I like.
When he's not getting the shit beat out of him.
This dude,
I feel like,
oh my god, he knows how hard it is to take care of Mary, and he's just like, Nora, you can do it.
Yeah.
What the fuck did you do? You just spend a whole episode of seeing how it's like ripping you apart, basically, to like care for her adequately, and like you're just gonna be like, my sister can do it with a baby.
It's one of those things where it's the symbolic thing. Like, Matt is driven by the like cosmic gestures, right? Like, to him, giving up his spot and going out there to the people, it's almost, to me, I kind of refer to it, instead of a redemption arc, it's a vindication arc for Matt this season, right? Like, he says this happened, she woke up, that's how he got pregnant, and no one believes him, right? And everyone looks at him, he's disgusting, there's no way you can consent with someone who's incapacitated, and all that stuff. And he kind of looks scummy, right? But then she wakes up. I mean, I think that there's some question as to whether or not her response at that moment was, yeah, that happened, or she was just agreeing with him. I think that there was some interesting kind of acting there. But at the end of the day, he gets to go around saying, I was vindicated, I was right, she did wake up. And again, that's a miracle, right? Like, we've definitely had unexplained events happen again in this season, aside from the departure, right? We've had Kevin dying for 8 hours, getting shot and bleeding out, not dying. Mary waking up.
Bird box shenanigans?
Yeah, the bird box shenanigans, the baby not getting trampled by a herd of humans running across a bridge.
Or dying in the August Central Texas heat when left on the hood of a car?
Yeah. Buying a house like that at auction, there just happened to be one. The miracle, right? So that's the kind of stuff this season, I think, and again, I like those things. I think these are really good, interesting, surreal aspects of the show. I don't know. I really liked Matt. I really liked Matt at the end of the season. But I agree with you, when his episode started, I was like, ooh, this is where we're going. I forgot.
Him abandoning his wife for the second time in 2 seasons, like that was a hard pill to swallow, and really makes it hard to be on Matt's side. And like it kind of felt like he he keeps himself on the outside in the camp really only so that he can run into Meg and have that powerful scene with her in the end.
No, I think that there's a little bit more. At least I'm going to argue this point, because to me, when he goes out, and I understand the interpretation, I didn't see it the way you guys at all saw it. I didn't see that as him abandoning Mary. I do recognize that it was a hardship on Nora, but based off the circumstances, I thought that he didn't have the bracelet. They were accusing him of right? Like there was a couple of things that happened, and he wasn't going to be able to get in, but Mary could. And so, yeah, he didn't push it. But also, what's his name? John Murphy was like, I ain't going to help you get in. You're a piece of shit. So when he goes back out there, though, the first thing he does is what? He goes and debases himself, is humiliated, and then refuses to let anyone take his place, right? And I don't know, this may be just religious symbology for him, but I feel like that was kind of like the sackcloth and ashes of the Old Testament. Like it was him saying there is something that I have to kind of atone for, whatever that is. But at the same time, I'm not going to let anyone else take that from me. I'm going to go up there and do it. I'm going to do it in front of everybody so they can see that I'm not afraid of it. I don't know. To me, that sequence, it was the beginning of where I feel like he was going to, I thought, again, first time I watched this, I thought he was going to start like some like big religious movement out in the camps, and it didn't happen that way. So it may be they just had him out there so that you could have the Meg sequence and have, the drama and all that.
That's true. And I think penance is a huge theme in this whole season.
Yeah.
Where, Kevin has penance in International Assassin. Virgil, he pays a price.
The grandpa?
The grandpa. John Murphy, he paid his debt to society in that conversation about him being incarcerated in the first episode. So I think, that's Matt's penance.
So I at least think that there is some, Matt's not just a shitty person for dropping Mary with Nora. There is a deeper meaning to his self-induced suffering. I also agree it's not an easy task, and, just being like, you can do it is not very considerate.
I didn't mean it like that. I know he didn't want to live the lie on the inside, but he also had five months, like John said. He's like, in 5 months, when people start to notice, like, you're going to have to tell them. He didn't have to live the lie for another 5 months, basically.
But didn't he say, I'm not going to lie? I mean,
he wouldn't have had to lie, though, at all.
He was saying, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say she woke up, and he said, no, you're not, because that doesn't happen in Miracle.
Yeah.
Because that's so Matt. Like, he is so convinced that he is right. He is so convinced that he will be persecuted even though he is right, and he will eventually be vindicated. And, well, he was right this time. Yeah.
Well, he's right in season 1, too, though, about the departure not being a rapture, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I understand why people hate him, but I also think that that's one of the things that drives him is that he's not wrong a lot of times. Even if the way he goes about doing it, people get annoyed and beat the shit out of him.
Hey, wasn't that a long 2 months, though, from the end of season 1 to the flash forward in this season? Like, everyone got way older. I know it's because of, like, in the real life, everyone aged up a lot. Like, it didn't take 2 months to film season 2, but I was like, man, everyone, like, Matt especially looked way older. But even Kevin and Nora looked older. I'm like, oh,
so,
man.
Can I ask a question just timing-wise? I thought I heard them say something at the end of season 2 that it had been 4 years since the departure, and I thought in season 2 or season 1 we were 2 years from the departure.
It's 3, I think.
3?
It was the 3rd anniversary, I think.
So then, is this a year later? Maybe I know that's not that.
Yeah, all this happened in a year, I guess.
Older.
Fire to end of this season was like a year.
Well, so the departure happened in October, and episode 1 of season 1, we have the anniversary, the 3rd anniversary in October.
3rd anniversary, and then season 2 ending is the 4th.
Like we
go through Christmas.
Like we see Christmas happen in season 1, like some months kind of go by, and then we're told it's August when they move to Jarden.
So
season 2 is going to be August, September, and October.
Okay.
It's quick.
I just was trying to make sure I understood the timeline.
Let me ask a question about religion in this show.
Sure.
And I don't really even maybe mean this as a criticism of the show, as maybe more of a criticism of who it depicts, but it confused me a little bit about the ideology about the departure, where, like we talked about before, season 1 seemed pretty convinced that the departure was the rapture or a rapture.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I was a Christian believing myself to be a righteous Christian, would I be seeking to protect myself from another departure?
I think that your point is another point that me and Christy discussed, because this is something I also asked. I said in season 1, people are sad, but there's definitely a lot of people who believe it was a rapture. But because we divorced the GR from its religious context in season 1 in the book, and that's really kind of one of their banners, is that it was the rapture and we're just waiting for the part 2 to happen now. There's no one to be that standard bearer, right? So then you're left with kind of an inconsistent statement. Now it's, we've been spared by God from this horrible event that happened. Now,
right.
I am going to make a quick textual analysis. The rapture is based off of one verse by Paul, whereas if you read through the actual Hebrew Bible, the eschatology, which is end times discussion, is a resurrection. That's what the Hebrew Bible and even the New Testament discuss. The rapture comes from one verse where Paul says that in the second coming that the followers of Christ will be called up in the sky, caught up in the sky. And then that word gets translated into rapture in Latin and then passed down. And that's where that entire doctrine of the rapture comes from. And so, like, if we're good Christians and we read their Bible, like, the rapture is not really textual, but it's a huge, like, doctrine within the church. So, and there's a lot of discussion in eschatology about the resurrection versus rapture. That's some other aspects of it that I feel like I feel like a lot of this is kind of surface level religion, right? It's not true deep down analytical religion. And so there's probably going to be just as many people who don't understand and are scared of it as people who believe it is the thing, right?
Right. Because that's what confused me a little bit, is that maybe not the majority of people that we see visiting the park, but a significant portion of the people that we see as visitors on those green buses are church groups.
Yep.
You know, they're all wearing matching t-shirts and they're praying and they're singing songs.
Yep.
And so that, you know, there was like that kind of a little bit incoherence between season 1 and season 2 of like, was this the rapture or not? So
I think that gets back to who are the people in season 1 who are saying it's the rapture. And I think we're kind of, again, that's why I feel like the GR losing their religious component actually kind of hurts the overall like meta narrative of the story. And I think we kind of come to this kind of confusing outcome because of that. You know, I think you're absolutely right that it is confusing. It feels like season 1, like we're all sad that they're gone, but there's clearly this indication that it is some type of, a lot of people believe it's a religious or rapture event. And that's why Matt's so vigorously arguing against it, right? Like, that's a huge plot point, is he's like, these are not good people. They did not, this can't be the rapture because that doesn't make sense. So, like, why would people be beating the shit out of Matt in season 1, other than maybe just calling your loved ones bad people, if the rapture is a good thing, you know, or is a bad thing? So I also was like, why are they singing songs that God spared our town if that was supposed to be, you know what I mean, the rapture? Yeah. So I feel like this comes to the point where like Lindelof is taking the show in a different direction than kind of the framework of season 1. And I think that season 2 in a lot of ways is more of a setup for season 3 than anything.
Now in part 1, Tony made a very bold statement. To paraphrase, he said that in season 2 we had his favorite episode of television of all time. Aaron, were you able to guess which episode that was?
Obviously, it was the Lori episode. No.
Yes, I knew it. I was trying to throw you off the scent earlier when I said that.
I would assume that it was Kevin's, because I mean, my favorite episode and the most like standout episode of the entire series to me, outside of the very, very ending, is Kevin's death and resurrection and crawling out of the ground. So I would say the International Assassin episode, but I could be wrong.
I think you're right.
Tony?
Yeah.
Hey! Survey says.
It was
ding, ding, ding.
It was definitely my favorite episode of the season. because it's the most Lynchian and surreal and interesting and weird.
Brought to you by Twin Peaks.
To me, Kevin and Nora carry on their shoulders a lot of the performances here. I like Matt. I like Matt's story. It's rough at times, but I think that Kevin is superior in so many ways in his performance in this season. Same with Patty. I thought Patty did really good too.
I will say, I thought, it's been a while since I've seen most of season 2 and a really long time since I've seen season 3, which we'll talk about later. But in my head, it was like more ambiguous. But like now on this rewatch, I'm like firmly in the like this paranormal stuff is actually happening. Like I'm definitely on that side. I thought they kind of left it 50-50, but now I'm like,
nah.
For my
8
opinion,
hours,
I'm convinced.
your brain, you're a vegetable at 8 hours of being.
Well, just
dead.
all the things that he couldn't have known, like the birds flying around. Like he has no reference information for the sparrows that Erica's been burying and killing that are in this place. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like he didn't really know going in that it was some sort of like limbo area, but then he like imagines, like if he's imagining it, he imagines Mary there, which I guess he could have filled in the blanks after he kind of got more of a set on it. But I'm just like, there's just too many little things that I feel like he doesn't have access to the information. I don't care what Lori says about what she told him about Patty and Neil. Like I don't think she told him about that level of detail about Patty's relationship with Neil and stuff like that.
What level of detail, Tony?
The shits on the chest. Just like the stuff about her dad pushing her downstairs or breaking her teeth, and like always, like I'm guessing her dad's who pinned that note on her chest, like to be I will shut my mouth and stuff like that. Like, it could have been Neil, but like and like her going on Jeopardy. Like I don't feel like Lori's telling him. Like why would she even tell him the Jeopardy part? I don't think she would tell him that. But definitely not the other stuff. Like I think she would have mentioned the relationship dynamic, but I don't think she would have said all that other stuff. Anyway, I just like feel like International Assassin like really just especially like 8 hours, and then also like him not bleeding out like seems pretty. The season 3 offers an excuse for it, but that excuse always felt like baloney.
Can I ask your guys' opinion about Evie? Because I definitely was shouting at the TV, "You are a massive piece of shit" when we get to the end of the season. Like I
did want to watch the season fresh because like when you first watch it, you don't know.
Yeah.
And there is a deeper appreciation I have for like the like foreshadowing that pops up that you didn't really like when they're just dead silent. Is it episode 1? They're driving the car. It's like they're having fun laughing, and then it's like boom, quiet in the car. Right? Like I didn't really when I first watched it, and I thought maybe they departed. Like that didn't really track, and then now I'm like, oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I agree with that. She's like this again. I felt like she doesn't really have. Again, her dad went to jail for trying to kill her grandpa. I just felt like, what is your problem? And at the end, why are you doing this? Okay. I still walked away being like, I don't know why this happened. I don't know why Evie did this. This makes no sense to me. Like, I thought it just was shitty teenagers that were spoiled being shitty.
Well, she had a lot going on. She was an honor student. She was doing Meals on Wheels. She was working at the department store and also at the illegal casino across the border.
What?
And
One-Eyed Jacks?
Who am I thinking of?
That's Laura Palmer.
Oh. Man.
But like, despite that, and I don't think Evie left Miracle hardly ever, but like, I just, I felt like there was not a real good reason as to why they did it.
I guess the reason is she's been like pretending for over a decade, and I guess she finally just snapped. I guess is the reason she couldn't pretend.
That maybe. I think post-pandemic, I have a lot less sympathy for some of these things because, like, even like we all have gone through a collective trauma now, and I feel like some of us took it easier and harder than others. But at the end of the day, I feel like Evie's response, like, Nora lost 3 people and she didn't pull this shit. You lost no one. You lost no one.
I think my headcanon was that Evie was following in her father's footsteps, where the father wanted so desperately to prove to people that there are no miracles in Miracle that Evie also wanted to shatter that idea in people's minds. And I guess I can't really explain why the father wanted to prove that point so vigorously.
That's a good point. I didn't really even think about that, and I'm trying to think. Maybe it has to do with the grandfather's like weird voodoo trailer stuff. I don't know. That's not really like. There's not an episode where they go into why he's like that, right?
Okay, so I have a question. Like, the grandpa is Erica's dad, right?
Yes,
Correct.
But he
molested Erica. That's the
he molested Erica, not
I think,
John.
Yeah,
I thought he molested John.
Kevin thinks that. Kevin thinks that that's what happened, and that's why John in the pound is like, you don't fucking know anything, right? Like he.
I thought he was like, you don't know. Like, he's like, why would he tell you that? Like, I thought he was just like trying to be like, no, because he would see that as like weakness, because he would be like seen weak. I don't know. But Erica's way too chill. Like, she goes up to the house and she talks to him like, she's like, I don't want your pie. Like, I think that would have gone differently if
maybe you're right.
I was molested and my husband shot you because you molested me. Like, she was way more chill than I feel like she would have been. She's not afraid to let it all out.
That's a fair point. I didn't really think about it that way, but I took it that way because I thought he was saying I hurt him by molesting his wife or my daughter, and that's how I took it, and it hurt their relationship or whatever, and he took revenge on me. But it could be exactly what you're saying, that Virgil molested him and then he shot his
It is
dick
confusing
off.
because like, how would he have access to like molest him? Like, I mean, it makes more sense that he would molest her, but then like the way people behave, I feel like it was trying to lead it to him molesting John, but I don't know.
Yeah, like if they'd given us some exposition that John and Erica had been like childhood sweethearts, like they'd like grown up next door to each other or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, I need a little bit more to understand why her grandfather molested you.
Her dad.
Yeah, I'm sorry, her dad. Yeah. So I think it does make a little more sense that he was, it was Erica that was the victim.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of discussion online about. I think it's left intentionally vague so that you can kind of interpret how you want to.
Yeah, kind of what Tony was saying a moment ago about, is the paranormal things happening or is it all in Kevin's head? On this watch through, I'm with Tony, where I'm much more convinced that these paranormal things are actually happening, but the show's good enough that the psychological explanation is still plausible. But like when previously I was like 50-50, now I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
There's crazy stuff going on.
I guess from the departure forward, I have been like, oh, there's voodoo magic going on somewhere in some way. So I've been kind of in the supernatural, already from the beginning. But I do think the first season plays a lot more with that line than the second season. I think it's kind of hard to be like, you were dead for 8 hours and now you're alive. Maybe. Like, I just... there's nowhere to kind of play with that, right?
Yeah,
like you're either shot or you're not. You're either buried underground for 8 hours or you're not. Like at first I was like, well, maybe the drink didn't really kill him. It was like one of those things that like slows your heart to like an imperceivable level, right? And then like they buried him and somehow he just kept breathing and then he climbed out of the dirt. Again, why would he, when he gets shot, return back to the same hotel? So yeah. There's a pretty good confirmation that there's this limbo death connection there, or some type of spirituality, that there is a how would I say this? Some type of religious order or something, an afterlife, a dark palace, a white lodge.
I think they did do that with Jardin, because they're like talking about the orphan's well, and like she was talking about her grandma with the bird thing. So I'm guessing like things have been happening in Jardin before the departure.
Longer before.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got on this watch around, I guess.
So Tony's saying that there's ley lines like underneath.
It's
Jardin
the orphan's wells, like it's a bridge between worlds.
Brought to you by Twin Peaks.
I also love the scene, but it doesn't make a ton of sense to me whenever he's dead and his dad just shows up and he's in like, some type of guided psychedelic trip, and he's like, oh, there you are. You need to get her to the well, son. Number one, it's the first time. I don't remember the well really being discussed as an important thing until the dad shows up. Like, did I miss that?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
It comes out of nowhere.
It comes out of nowhere, right? And so, like, to me, like, it moves the story forward. And I liked it. I thought it was interesting and funny. But I was also like, why is this happening right now? That is some crazy serendipity, or Kevin's brain just invented it.
I think it is baiting season 3 a little bit.
Like prepping for it?
Because I think his dad obviously has some sort of like, he suffers from delusions of grandeur, like he thinks he's the chosen one, whereas like we as a viewer think Kevin's the chosen one. But like I think he's got some sort of connection to whatever's happening in the grand scheme of things, which they kind of like dropped. Like they dropped that from season 1 to season 2. Season 1, it's like there's a grand conspiracy plan that these invisible people that his dad's talking to, and like you get the vibe that Patty was in tune with it, like when she killed herself, like she knew something secret. And then this season kind of like, I think season 3 picks it up again, but like this season kind of just like drops it, and Patty's basically just a ghost, and she didn't know what she was doing when she killed herself, basically, except that she wanted to hurt him. Like it kind of drops a lot of the more, it's still super mysterious, but I feel like it dropped a lot of the background mystery, like where you felt like there was a larger plot to the happenings.
No, I think the whole thing where, like, even the dad says, you know how I got rid of the voices? I started listening to them and did what they said.
Well, he didn't get rid of him. He just got out of his psychiatric hospital.
Well, yes, maybe that's all. But I feel like there's some indication that in the first season, it's that the scene from True Detectives where McConaughey's like, you ever feel like you're tripping on the fabric of the universe? Like, yeah, that's how I feel like with the dad. Like he's just like connected into it, and like we're bringing in Kevin into this. It's like a passing of the mantle, but it ends up just being a ghost. You're just being haunted now.
To me, it felt like Kevin's Jesus and his father is John the Baptist, like preparing the way, like the wilderness man.
Just he still has his head.
Eating locusts and honey.
And probably, some type of South African or South American, psychedelics in the rainforest. I liked when he was like, we're in the same hotel room.
I mean, I'm a sucker for when I feel like there's a plan. And I feel like this show, like on the rewatch, I feel like, you know what? They had a lot of this stuff planned out. Maybe it's just within this season, but like that David Burton, I think he's in season 3. The guy, the Australian dude that we see on the bridge and then in the bar with the karaoke. But even like the first episode, they're like, the guy's trying to mail him a letter. And then you hear on the background TV or radio, it's like, there's some dude in Australia that claims he can't die or something like that. It's like that. And then I love, like, I think we see them shaking hands at the doorway or like meeting each other and waving at each other from like 3 different angles, which would have to be like really planned out to like not get the cameras in the original shots.
In the shot.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm a sucker for when things seem to be like well planned out.
Well, even like when Meg goes to the park back before season 1, it's the same guy on the bridge, right? Like I do think the show does a really good job of kind of creating a lot of, they create a lot of great consistency in a lot of aspects that make it feel real. And I think that's one of the things that the show does. Although it's surreal, a lot of the trauma, a lot of the things, I feel like they do a good job of bringing a lot of those things to feeling like how I feel like a lot of stuff would kind of play out or how people would be.
There's a ton of great lines that I forgot. I wrote them down. If you want to hear them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give us the top 10 or 5 Tony lines.
I've got 5 or 6. I think it's episode 1 where he's like, don't you want to know what happened? He's like, what'd you go in for? Attempted murder. Like, what happened? Like, well, I didn't try hard enough. I was like, oh, it's such a good, like,
such a good line.
Wow.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that Kevin had said, man, you really are a bad shot. Whenever they were like having their bonding moment at the end. Like I was like, man, that's a missed opportunity because of how the interplay with them at the beginning. Like he could have been like, yeah, man, you're bad at this.
I love them in the last episode. He's like, Prince matched. Indeed, they did, or whatever they said.
Yeah, no.
And then like, I feel like, isn't that such a bro? Like I've never been in a fight, but this is like, it's such a bro move when like you get in a fist fight with somebody and then all of a sudden you're like best friends. It's like you get shot by this dude and he's like, all right, let me clean you up, and then you like walk home together and you're like, you know what? If your wife's not home, just come on over. We'll finish those beers off or something like that.
It's the Letterkenny effect, right? Like you get into a scrap and then afterwards you're all buds.
Allegedly.
All right, line number 2. He's like, Kevin's like, I don't want to kill myself. And then Patty says, well, you are certainly entitled to your opinion. I thought that was the money one. And then I already messaged Jay, like the one-eyed firearms agent. It's like, not the you want to blow your life up, but that's a good one too. But he's like, so long, Patty, we hardly fucking knew you. That one. When he's getting patted down, the guy goes, congratulations. And then when president-elect or presidential candidate Patty's talking about Abraham Lincoln, she's like, bam, emancipated from life.
Yeah,
I thought that was good. And then I liked it when Nora threw down the radio, fix that, Jesus, followed up by earthquake. And yeah, the last episode, he's like, I killed you. It's like, nope. Anyway, that was my list. There was a lot of good ones, but those ones, like, emancipated from life was so good. I was like, oh, that's such a good line. Like, who thinks of these things?
Writers.
Smart people, man. They called in, who did the West Wing? Was that dude?
Aaron Sorkin?
Yeah, they called in Aaron Sorkin on that one. That's the end of my list.
I really enjoyed John's whole swagger the whole time. And the toothpick thing, I couldn't get out of my mind that he was a regular human bartender.
This is the way we talk in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, Jackie Daytona. Yeah, I like John's voice.
John's voice was very soothing. But I kind of agree with you. There's not really a real explanation as to why he's so anti-miracles and miracle. Why not move?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like you understand why he's angry at Virgil.
Well, this chap has the hair of a pedophile.
Yeah.
But, like, why, like, is that connected to his anger about the you know what, maybe Erica gave us the explanation pretty early on where she says that you're just generally angry and looking to take it out on anyone.
As Aaron said, the past hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is, yeah. I think he does it. I think it's Virgil thing too. Like, because Virgil obviously has some sort of powers going on.
But let me ask you this though. Okay, the firefighter was molested, his wife was molested, it's awful. And we're all police. And he just killed a guy. He just burned down someone's house. This, society's still functioning. There's still insurance companies and stuff. They have to deal with that shit. I don't think that people would just sweep everything under the rug like they kind of did, Like,
yeah, it didn't really explain why John was so powerful in that town.
Yeah, like, why does he have so much clout as a former convict who has moved back to town and as a firefighter? So I just, that was one of the things that I was like, he shot Kevin in the pound, and the cops are like, we found Erica. Nobody heard the bullet.
Why are you covered in blood?
Why are you covered in blood?
Yeah, it was also a little bit of a strange choice to make the jack-booted stormtroopers National Park Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it makes for a really powerful image, which I think is a strength of this show and a strength of Damon Lindelof in general. But just, like, a little bit of a weird choice.
Can you explain that to me? I'm sorry. Weird choice as in why are the people who are, like, kind of the law park rangers?
Like, park rangers, you normally think of, like, they're there to
set
help
stuff
you.
on fire.
Like, not that regular cops aren't, but, like, you don't think of national park rangers as serving the function of riot police and having to form
like
a defensive
center,
line,
passing out pamphlets.
Yeah, exactly. But in this show, they're billy club wielding wall enforcers. Like, there felt like there was a lot of subtextual commentary about immigration and migration here, with the whole, like, you know who gets a wristband, who doesn't, who's allowed in here, who's not. There's a whole camp forming outside to get across the bridge.
And again, what, 2015?
Yeah, like, war in Syria, migration across the Mediterranean was a huge issue at the time.
Exactly. So I think Lindelof is going to be connected and kind of honed into what's going on culturally to incorporate a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. I think Mrs. Davis has also colored a little bit of my watch of this show, where Mrs. Davis eventually ended up being quite a lot about, like, personal purpose in life and what is my motivation and what am I trying to accomplish. And we get quite a lot of that in The Leftovers. I think maybe a little more in season 1 than in season 2.
Yeah, I think we're still kind of basking in the stunning aspect of the departure in season 1. Season 2, now people are like, I don't want that to happen again. we gotta get safe. Like it feels like all of a sudden it shifted from being in shock to survival mode. Who do you think in season 2, like if identity wise, like what identities are they exploring in season 2? You said it's more season 1, but what about season 2?
Well, I think with season 2 and Kevin, he's really struggling for an identity because he's no longer, like, he's lost his vocation, he's lost his town, and he lost his family, but has reformed a new one. But then by the end, that family starts to reject him. So I think we really see Kevin struggling to find a place. We see Matt and his wife kind of literally struggling to find a place. That also bothered me, that they were supposed to be living in some kind of lean-to in Texas in August. Like, again, like, that's...
With their health conditions.
Like, you guys were not filming here in August, were you?
Yeah, well, to be fair, just because I've been to some of these little small, like, rural churches before that have pastors' quarters on site, at least the ones I've been to, they have AC. They're not just like the building may be old, but it's Texas, and they're like, we're not going to sit in the church with no AC. And so the lean-to's attached to the church, so it gets AC too. But I agree with you. It did not appear that was... Again, I feel like in this age, there'd be so much money from... like people come into town, and like you said, religious peoples, like why they probably come into the church. So I don't know why. Like it feels like we're told that there is this whole like tourist industry, right? Like we're seeing all these people taking pictures with the lady in the dress and taking the tour and all that stuff. But where's the tourist money? What's it turning into? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I feel like the guy in the tower. I guess maybe we get back into him in season 2. Like, there wasn't a whole lot done with him in this season.
You just, like, mentioning that. It's like, you know what? Like, I know Matt wanted to stay out there to, like, place hardship on himself or something. It's like, why is this so hard? Like, where is this preacher? The preacher was not out of town still. Like, that's an easy phone call or walk up to the thing. Like, listen, he's living with me at the church. Like, why is this so hard to get into this thing? And he gets in. And, like, why is his line the same line as someone that's trying to get married somewhere in jar? Like, what is this? Why are they the same line?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I also am like, noticed that in the October 14th episode, the pastor's there preaching.
Yeah.
He's been back for a while, I feel like. He was only supposed to be gone for a week for his little surgery or something like that.
Yeah, so that's what I completely agree with you. If he needed someone to sponsor him, why didn't he call the pastor?
I think that goes back to the immigration commentary, where it feels extremely arbitrary of who gets in, who doesn't, who stays, who gets thrown out.
It's the way of the road.
Lost all the liquor money, boys.
What?
It's the way she goes.
That's the second time Matt has suffered a head injury after trying to help someone. Season 1, he gets a rock to the dome and loses his church that he won enough money from. In season 2, he gets his hand freaking curb stomped, and
that's why he's wearing a helmet for most of season 3.
Hey, season 3 is gonna feel new, because I think I just watched it when it came out, and I don't think I've rewatched it at all.
Yeah, I have very little memory of what happens.
Same. I only remember the ending. Like, that's what I was saying, is like when we were thinking back to things that really stuck out, the beginning, Kevin resurrecting, and the very ending are like the 3 things that stick out the strongest to me. So I'm looking forward to season 3, because again, I feel that season 2 in a lot of ways is setting up for season 3. Like, I feel like it, and again, I feel like Lindelof comes to the same conclusion I have. The GR doesn't really have a purpose in the story by the end of season 2. Like, I know I'm getting into it, I know where we're going, but like he kind of like wipes them out going into season 3. So like, I feel like the GR just needed to be dealt with, and Meg's aggressive, violent invasion of Jarden was that catalyst to kind of allow the ATCF or whatever, the ATFC, to deal with them.
ATFEC.
I just had a very political statement in my head pop up that I don't want to ruin the podcast with.
Obviously, you should say it.
I don't want to say it.
Now I want to know.
Yeah, now I want to know. Like, we'll edit it out.
Okay, edit it out. Meg is Donald Trump. coming into the Republican Party to destroy it from the inside, like to corrupt it and destroy it by changing it into something unrecognizable.
It's the populism, right? She's giving the people what they want, right?
Like if we find out that in the future there's a time machine and they sent Donald Trump into the past to destroy the Republican Party or the country, like I might be like, okay, that makes sense.
So in spoiler alert, but in season 2 of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, there's an episode where it's revealed that Romulans are in present day Earth and are working to hold humanity back, like basically by doing like what Russia is doing in real life by making us just like fight each other rather than band together. Oh. So yeah, I could see Donald Trump as a Romulan agent.
Just to be clear to our listeners, I'm not against Republicans. I'm just against Trump, the person. I don't want to lose half of our one audience member.
So Tony's definitely coming to the election watching night.
Special correspondent.
Special correspondent. I'm really excited to rewatch season 3. Like that's where I end at the end of season 2 is that I'm really excited to kind of get back into it because I don't remember where we go from here, if I'm being honest. So I do know Australia, like Tony was referencing. We're getting, I got to give props to this. The foreshadowing in this show does do very well. There's a lot of stuff kind of watching back through that ties things together, and I do think that is a bravo point personally.
I do remember like 4 things from season 3. Remember like the intro episode, people are like on their roofs for a flood or something, or people are gonna get called up to heaven. I remember they're in Jarden, and Kevin and Tom are like police officers riding horses or something. Mm-hmm. And I remember there's like a furry episode, a furry convention is it on a cruise ship? Some sort of lion. And then I remember them being old in Australia.
Jay, Tony, what would your fursona be?
My first? I'm not deep enough to know what that means. Is that like the animal that I would be if I was a furry?
What animal would you be? You were the one who brought up the furries, man.
Well, that's what they are, aren't they? Aren't they all dressed up in like little furry costumes?
I don't remember that scene, but I believe you. It stood out enough to you.
Okay.
I'm looking forward.
I'll have to get back to you on episode 3 recap or season 3 recap. I'll have to do some digging to get a VPN and go in private mode from some Google searches to figure out.
If you have not watched the videos where people go to the furry cons and interview people, they are outrageously funny. Outrageously funny.
It really is setting up Nora to be the bad guy again, really. Which I feel like she kind of, maybe she's not the bad guy, but you dislike her in season 3. And I feel like it is setting it up to where she just wants to get out so bad that she buys the house without talking about it. And she kept the baby to fix her life, which is why she destroys the radio in the last episode. The guy's like, listen, having another baby's not going to make the things that are broken inside of you okay. And she's like, oh shit, I just realized something about myself.
I really didn't like Nora. The only point that I didn't like Nora was whenever she disappeared on Kevin. Now, Kevin's at his bottom point, and I know that it's set up because Lori comes in and gives him more psychological advice. But even with Lori coming, I feel like it would be better. At least I would like Nora a lot better at that sequence if she didn't just disappear on him. Now, I guess he didn't tell her, and I guess that's a justification for why she freaks out. But he kind of makes the point of, I didn't tell you because I thought you were going to freak out and leave, and then you freak out and leave.
I was surprised I did not realize he told Nora and Jill so early on the season that he was sleepwalking and seeing stuff, and he killed Patty, or he was there when Patty killed herself. I forgot that I didn't realize he told them so early on.
Right after.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing is at that point, isn't he already seeing Patty and he doesn't tell them that?
Yeah.
What did he say? When did it start? He said
it was with his dad, right? Don't turn around.
Oh yeah, it was in season 1. Yeah.
Yeah. That scene you're describing about Kevin coming clean to Nora and Jill, that was one of my favorite lines of the show, where it felt like every once in a while this show would stop, take a beat, and acknowledge just how ridiculous some of its storylines were by having one of the characters just speak them out loud by having Kevin say, "Hey, I'm sleepwalking and trying to kill myself in my sleep." Hilarious. Loved it.
They went meta with the book was meta too. Like the publisher interview was pretty meta. It's like, well, we need to know why they're smoking. And she's like, well, they never really told me. Whatever. He's like, and it's like, we need to feel like this story is too, like, you're too bad. You left your whole family. Like, you abandoned everybody in the world that cared about you. You dropped the thing down the thing. It's just like, I feel like that was a super meta, like, moment in the show. Which is, like, probably what all the viewers were thinking up to that point.
I mean, it's what Jill was saying, right? You know, you have to talk to me. You're saying that? You're saying that to me? You know, I think that something that Lori has failed to assess in her situation is she also needs to have repentance, penance, reconciliation, right?
Yeah.
That hasn't begun yet. She's kind of indicated that, hey, something's going to have to happen. But I feel like because Lori is the intellectual and she thinks she's helping people, she's missing the point that she needs to go through penance. And everyone around her, except for Jill, who, like, I don't know, Jill was, this season was, Jill was kind of like an after effect. But everyone else is going through penance. Everyone else is going through some type of reconciliation or some type of debasement to kind of like come to a rebirth almost. And I don't think Lori has started that at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
She hasn't. That lady called her out on it too. It's like, he's going to be angry like you. She's like, I'm not angry. She's like, okay. You're running over people in your car.
Yeah. That one, I was like, why do you think that's okay to do? Then she cries about, they won't move.
I think she's still like, deep down, she still respects them somehow. And I think Tom does too, maybe because he's more broken inside. But like, she still's like, I hate them what they're doing, but like, I think she still respects their like mission or whatever.
But I also feel like, and maybe I'd be wrong, there's going to be people who don't buy it, right? Like, I feel like people are going to hug me like, I don't feel any different. The fact that like nobody really is depicted as everyone's like, oh, I feel so much better. I don't know. Like maybe we're so hard looking for something to soothe us that we'll accept anything like Lori says. But I feel like there's quite a, like, going through the pandemic and how much skepticism and arguing and everything that was going on. And also people who probably were believing that hugging or injecting certain things into their body would probably solve all their problems. But, you know,
like sunlight
or chloro, like bleach or something like that. So, I just don't know. Like, it's really hard to evaluate, I guess, how people would react. Because I think that, especially because there had not been anything to this level, you know, like to compare to what the Spanish flu was 100 years before this. So there's not a whole lot of experience of that collective trauma. I think the closest thing to a collective trauma that maybe any of us could experience before the pandemic would be like 9/11, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's the closest thing. And even then with 9/11, the country kind of takes a whole, and now maybe this season actually kind of mirrors the real world a lot more than we realize, but like there's mourning and there's sadness and but then the country goes to war.
Yeah.
You know, and like there's a new focus and a purpose and stuff like that. So I don't know. I feel like we never quite know how people are going to react to these situations. And I think the show does do a good job of exploring a lot of different ways that people react to grief and trauma.
That's what they say in season 1. She's like, everyone's ready to move on or celebrate or something. He's like, everyone's ready to fucking explode.
I really like the idea of Tom and Lori becoming what they were fighting to begin with, but they kind of didn't go anywhere with that.
Yeah, it just abandons after like an episode.
Yeah.
Had they turned it into something, I agree with you. It could have been a really interesting exploration of kind of how, you know, Nietzsche's, you know, if you go hunting monsters, you know, be careful that you don't become one. They could have really gone into that kind of idea and explored that with Tom and Lori. And it just kind of feel like they just tinkered with it. And then we need to get Lori and everybody to Jordan.
It was almost like they had an entire other arc for Tom and Lori.
Yeah.
But then when they sat down to break the episodes, they said, oh, we have to compress this down into one.
That's probably what happened.
Yeah. And again, remember the first season, we have a lot more interactions with the GR and things like that. And we really almost have very little interactions outside of Lori and then Meg at the end.
I really enjoyed that scene where Meg goes to meet with like the
leaders?
GR like council. Yeah.
Yeah.
In that like nice house.
Yeah, the main lady looked familiar. I can't remember what I've seen her on, but the main like leader lady that talks to Meg.
There was so much intensity in that interaction.
Yeah, Crazy Meg was the bomb. Biggest glow up from season 1 to season 2.
Christy took a little bit of umbrage with Meg's animosity towards Lori, mainly because in the book they are thick as thieves. They are very, very connected. And so she felt like the kind of radical shift in Meg felt out of character from the book, but not from the show.
I feel like in this, I don't even think she was against Lori that much. I feel like she was just chaos. Like, I think she's just like, I'm just going to go fuck her son. And like, I guess they told her to make it stop and stuff like that.
Well, no, but didn't she also say, have a message for your mom or something like that? Or tell your mom I said hi? Like, I feel like there was definitely supposed to be an intimidation to Lori and her family.
I guess we find out the council told her specifically to put a stop to it when she meets them. She's like, just like we had you handle this, is like, this is still a problem. Because then they'd up their game to like being Holy Wayne 2.0. I was sad about Lori. She still couldn't tell Kevin about the baby. Like, I thought it was a really sweet moment when he's like, hey, I'm sorry about the dog. That he actually remembered that. And like, I guess you can see in her face that she's like, maybe she does forgive him about the baby kind of thing. Or like for not wanting a baby, even though he never knew about the baby. But I was like, I wonder if she would have told him about that. It's basically her whole reason for blowing her life up.
Well, I think she said also, though, we were all searching for answers. That's why I joined a fucking cult.
When did John get out of prison?
That was a good question.
Because like,
he went to prison when Evie was 5. He went for attempted murder. It would depend on how long he
said it was
went,
6 years.
6 years, so she'd be like 11 or 12.
Yeah, but the hand dude is still doing it. I guess but he said he was in prison when the departure happened. Is that what it said?
No,
he said I wasn't here.
So okay,
or something like
14.
That.
She was 14 at that. When we see Evie and Meg in the episode before season 1, she's 14.
She was only 16 years old.
Is she? I don't know.
I thought she said something like that.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
Maybe she.
I guess they're still in high school. So do we watch child
still in high
porn
school
by seeing them run naked through the woods? If these characters are supposed to be like younger than 18 years old.
Did HBO produce child porn if these people are supposed to be under 18 years old?
Kind of regret asking the question now.
Oh, that'll be up for the Mandamus radio lawyers to answer.
No, I think that there's a difference between actually using actors who are underage and the depiction of 18-year-olds who are acting like they're 15-year-olds.
You know what that just reminded me of? Man, the Transformers movies really went off the rails after Shia lost his mind. But they had to have that whole subplot about how it was okay for Mark Wahlberg's daughter to date her boyfriend who was older than her. They had to like dump exposition in that Transformers movie to like make people accept that relationship. And I was like, if you have to do this much, why don't you just not have it be like this? Did y'all ever see that movie? Yeah, it was like the fourth
Mark
one.
Wahlberg Transformers movie?
I definitely watched that one. And I'll be honest, I don't remember a damn thing about the story other than robots and explosions. So, but
his
that's
daughter's
also why
young with
I
an older
went-
boyfriend, and they're like, "No, it's okay in Texas. There's like just Romeo and Juliet laws. Like we were dating when I was still underage or something. Like there's like a whole like exposition dump of why it's okay for them to be dating. Like just have them be older."
So obviously one of the writers had that exact situation
Yeah,
and needed to
Michael
justify it.
Bay. Michael Bay was still in there. He must have done something.
Ugh. I definitely, whenever they were running through the forest naked, I was like, this is an uncomfortable sequence. Because I was like, they were just depicted as being like high schoolers. But again, this gets back to, I feel like Evie and the two other girls were just spoiled brats. They didn't really have any real problems. They had to create problems.
And they're definitely not the only ones in this show where their reaction is kind of out of proportion with their trauma. You know, not that we should ever really judge anyone else's trauma, but I think like Meg is a great example where her mother died and she wasn't able to grieve, but we see that it's not even really about that. It's about that Meg didn't want to have a relationship with her mother, and then her mother died and she got no closure. It's like, okay, but like you said earlier, Nora lost 3 people.
What do you think her mom was trying to tell her before she died?
It's a good question.
Cosby Jr. was right. I think Cosby Jr. was the real thing. And I think he was absolutely right that it was something mundane and it was not going to give Meg the closure she was seeking.
It was something bad, right? Isn't he what he kind of said? I feel like he was saying it's usually mundane, but then he was like, people say some fucked up shit or something like that. I thought he said something
dumbass shit.
Yeah.
I thought it was dumbass shit. Like he was like, whenever you're on your deathbed and you know you're dying, you have the ability to formulate some profound and meaningful words to people. When you die and you don't know you're about to die, people say some dumb shit.
Yeah.
And she's like, excuse me?
Oh, yeah, that's where that tangent earlier I was doing. It was like, because, like, this dude's doing his little hand reading things when Meg first goes there. But then he finally gets his comeuppance with John in this season. But I feel like John's been back for a while. Yeah. Like, what took him so long?
It's a good point that John, everything indication from the bathtub scene where the brother's saying that Evie was crying because she didn't know why dad was gone. She said we were 5. Okay?
Yeah.
If John said that he was in jail for 6 years, so let's assume that he had to be in jail by 5. That's 11. Like, that timeline doesn't really mark out, does it? Because she's definitely... So 11 is when he's out. That if there's 3 more years...
Well...
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to think about when this would have happened.
Unless I'm misremembering that he was gone during... I thought he was gone during the departure. But maybe I misremembered that. I thought that's when they're at his birthday party. Like, where were you? Like, oh, I wasn't here. I was locked up.
Oh, that rings a bell.
Like
I feel like I remember. I might have imagined it, but I feel like I remember him saying something about like I came out to a different world.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just misremembering it. What do they call it? The Mandela effect or something like that?
Yeah, that is a thing. He was in jail on October 14th, 2011, is what the internet is saying.
So 3 years before the departure? Because it was 14, right?
The 14 was the 3-year anniversary. He got out the year of the departure, is what the internet is saying. He got out like right after it happened. Yeah.
I guess if it's 6.5 years, he goes in when she's 5, comes out when she's
and then she's
5
14.
and a half or 6.
No,
I'm sorry,
like 11 or 12, I guess.
Whenever the Meg scene happens, and then you add another year, though, that's not age. That's not old enough.
I mean, I guess if she's like 16 in season 2 rather than 18.
But 16, that puts 3 years. She's 13. So wait, hold on. Yeah, I still don't think the math adds up, because if he's in jail for 6 years, he's in jail when she's 5, and she is at least 16 in whenever we have all the events that happen, and the events that happen are 4 years after the departure. So 6 years plus 4 plus 6, that's 16. No, that adds up. I think you're right, though. I think they're 16.
Makes the naked running more uncomfortable. That was something that Lindsay keyed in on, where I kept trying to kind of bait her into being like, hey, do you think they departed? Where do you think happened to him? And she was like, those bitches were running naked through the forest. They're doing shenanigans. They're out somewhere. I'm like, yeah.
She had not seen season 2?
She's never seen any of this before. This is her first watch through.
Do you have any... Did she offer any opinions? I'm curious.
She took a lot of issues with like story beats, kind of a lot of what we talked about how like Meg's story didn't really make a lot of sense from like a motivation sense, apart from just she was a terrorist.
It must be season 3 when we figure out how that ends up. But I thought it was this season.
Yeah, I remember what happened. That's what I mean. I keep saying. Like,
I was like, when does this happen? It's like, Kevin, get out of there, bro. Get out of there, Kevin. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Continue.
You're talking about
Jay.
Lindsay's thoughts.
No, you're all good. I think with her watching it with me, the final sequence kind of fell apart a little bit more, where it feels like every time I watch this show, International Assassin gets better and the final sequence kind of like disintegrates, where it's like, okay, well, yeah, you like rushed over this bridge and overwhelmed the 5 park rangers that were guarding that one gate. But like, couldn't you have done that at any time at any of the other entrances to this park?
There's
like,
only one, I thought.
Yeah, but this is Central Texas. This isn't like Hawaii. You know, this isn't the island from Midnight Mass.
Fair.
Like yes, you know, you can put a choke point on it by creating a perimeter everywhere else, but you can't tell me that the only way to get into this town is through that one bridge. Like, what impenetrable barrier is there around this town?
And what people are going to just honor it, right?
Yeah.
Like, the people that were out and again, yeah, I guess that they put fences all the way around the park.
Yeah.
Also, Matt's just like, that storm drain? Forget it. Couldn't get through because it was raining, but they'll never use or think about it again.
No.
But he didn't really want to get back in, but still.
I'm really looking forward to watching through season 3, because if memory serves, it's almost like to distill it. Season 1 was about dealing with the after effects of the departure. Season 2 was about protecting yourself from another one. And season 3 is going to be about where did they go.
Mm-hmm.
Season 3 was it kind of like a gift? Like, we only get 8 episodes instead of 10, but wasn't it kind of like, fine, we'll let you finish this show up or something type of thing? Or was that just in my head, the vibe that was happening around when it was coming out? I feel like that's kind of like, fine, we'll give you 8 episodes and let you finish this series up or whatever. And so I feel like it felt really rushed. I don't even think we see Tom or
Tom's
Jill at all
a police officer with him.
Oh yeah, I guess we see him a little bit. They don't get their own episode. I guess they never really had their own episode, but
the just based off viewers, the 3rd season has stronger viewership overall than the 2nd season, but the 1st season has the strongest.
I'd totally believe it though, because both season 1 and season 2 end on really strong notes of finality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have ended the series both of those places very easily.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
How Much Your Mother could have taken a note from there.
I was kind of struck by, this show is depressing as shit. But both 1st and 2nd season, we get happy endings with Kevin getting his family back. I was like, oh, I kind of forgot. It's like, this show is so depressing and sad, which is why I love it. But kind of throw us a bone here at the season finales and give us happy endings.
Well, I feel like one of the things that kind of on the meta-analysis of Kevin's story is Kevin's on a hero's journey, right? And I feel like with that you have to overcome something, right? And so here we've had this overcoming of his inner demons, of Patty, and so now moving into the 3rd season, I feel like now we're kind of primed for Kevin to step into a new identity, right? To reclaim his identity, his personhood, and now kind of move forward. So I don't know. I think that they do a very good job or Lindelof does a very good job of kind of crafting this interesting, weird, and surreal narrative. But it's real surrealism. I feel like that was one of my critiques of Miss Davis, is that it was just kind of like people doing stuff, or the computer like putting pianos out in the middle of a field, but there was always a explanation for it. It wasn't like Lynchian surrealism where it's like, oh, I saw in a dream and now I'm throwing rocks and that's obviously the answer. Whereas The Leftovers feels more like that mysterious metaphysics and surrealism that you're like, what is happening? Like, what is actually happening? Whereas like the answer in Miss Davis is, well, the AI is doing weird shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we can end on a question that I meant to ask in season 1 but forgot. Who is the worst cop? Kevin Garvey or Dale Cooper?
I don't know. We never see Kevin doesn't do any cop. He's just a figurehead, basically.
I'm going to say Kevin Garvey because if you are out shooting dogs in the middle of the night with a person that you're not sure is real or not, at least I feel like Dale Cooper would not be out shooting dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also feel like Dale Cooper definitely probably caused Laura Palmer to go into an eternal loop of horribleness by his poor, transcendental meditation policing. But I at least feel like he's trying to be a good detective, whereas I don't really feel like Kevin's doing jack shit when it comes to being a police officer. Now, season 3, that may change.
One of my favorite images from season 1 was Kevin just parked on the side of the road in uniform, drinking beer. Broad daylight, doesn't give a fuck. Loved it.
The show really is pretty blasé with drinking and driving in general.
Yeah, well, Americans used to be pretty blasé about drinking and driving. I don't know if you've seen that video from the 80s when they changed.
I have seen that guy's like, what's wrong getting off work?
Cracking a couple of beers, driving home.
It's a communist country.
Talk about seatbelts.
It's like, we got to wear seatbelts? What's this country coming to?
I can't. Okay, here's another tangent. I'm all about the tangents. It's like, how can it be a law to wear a seatbelt and not be a law to wear a helmet on a motorcycle? Like, how can those two things exist in the same world?
We're way off base here, but I think I might say that, like, riding a motorcycle, at least in the United States, is a leisure activity, while riding in a car is a necessity to get through life that, like, a child or a disabled person might have to do. But, like, nobody has to ride a motorcycle. So you're somewhat assuming the risk of that when you do it.
Also, Texas requires you to wear a helmet if you're under the age of 21.
Oh, I did not know that.
So I think it's kind of like I agree with you. I think it's a little ridiculous, but I also think it's ridiculous that we build children's school buses with no seatbelts whatsoever.
Yeah, so, what is up with that?
That's one of those things where it's like seatbelts are really important, except for the children on the school bus that the state's driving.
Because it's like if you think, oh, the school bus is just like driving around a neighborhood at 20 miles an hour, that's not reality. There are rural areas where people are driving at like highway speeds on school buses that might get into a freaking accident. Like, what the hell?
Or someone might pull over the bus and throw a grenade on it and lock all the children in there.
Oh my god.
Oh, I forgot about that part completely too.
Boom. Brought it back around, Jay. There you go.
There it is.
Segue.
Well, we'll see what explosive plot points we have for Meg in season 3 next time on the show. Welcome back to the show. I'm Jay. That's Aaron.
Heyo.
And that's Tony.
Hello.
And we are talking The Leftovers Season 3, the last segment of our megasode, the Last Supper, if you will. So take it away, Aaron. Tell us about Season 3.
Well, today, as Jay said, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the third and final season of HBO's Leftovers. And Season 3 takes us on quite the journey, filled with existential questions, emotional turmoil, and some unexpected twists. We are set 3 years after the events of the second season. The world is approaching the 7th anniversary of the sudden departure, and tensions are running high. Kevin Garvey returns, grappling with his own mortality and purpose, while Nora Durst is on a desperate quest for answers. And our characters converge in Australia as the series delves into themes of faith, loss, and search for meaning in a forever changed world. This season is really, really interesting to me because it definitely leans really, really hard into the metaphysics. And, you know, ultimately the metaphysics are meaningless. I don't know that I took this away last time, but I really felt like when we ended Kevin's journey in the third season, I walked away with, that didn't have any purpose or meaning at all. And maybe that's the message that Lindelof is trying to tell us, is that you have to create your own purpose. But I really came to the end. I feel like we kind of build through this like 3 seasons of metaphysics and existentialism with Kevin. And, you know, there is no flood. There is no salvation. There is, you know, really nothing, which I completely forgot a lot of the stuff going into the third season. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I think I disliked it on my first watch so much that I just pushed it out of my mind. Because I didn't remember a lot of really key moments. Like, I think in an earlier segment, the two of you had remembered there was something like a furry convention. I remember hearing that and thinking, what are they smoking? But no, that was there.
Yeah, that one was, I watched that one on a plane, and I forgot all the nudity. It was like Game of Thrones or something. I was like, let me just skip forward 10 seconds at a time. I know for sure there was a family with a baby behind me. I was like, let me just bloop, bloop, bloop. What was the lion's name? I forget.
Fraser. Doctor.
Don't speak his name
midnight,
lest you become him.
Yeah, it was the season takes a lot of different turns. I do think that I really like, again, all the performances in this season. I think that Kevin, Nora, Matt, just absolutely phenomenal performances. But I really dislike Lori. Like I can't say it enough. Like she's always portrayed as like the reasonable person, and like I don't know why. From the beginning of the series, she's like wrapped up in a cult. The second season, she's just like pushing a false narrative of messiahship, and then like whenever like everyone else is like he's a real messiah, she's like, you guys are crazy.
I don't remember ever liking Lori before, and I kind of liked her this season. I kind of felt like maybe the writers were like, the first 2 seasons we made her unlikable, and this season they threw her some bones. I feel like she had a good coming around where I actually didn't mind her this time.
But did you buy it that she was judging everyone else for being crazy? Like, I don't know. Like, to me, I just kind of was like, get off your high horse, lady.
I think I just kind of get the vibe she was tired. Like, she was kind of trying to hold everyone together, but everyone was trying to like, willingly let themselves fall apart. And I think she just finally was like, okay, I'm not going to try to stop you anymore and just go with it.
I think the thing about Lori is that you're right that she is often the voice of reason on screen, but she's wrong all the time.
All the time.
Like, she repeats a few times, you never tell someone in the middle of a psychotic break that they're having a psychotic break because that can cause damage. But every time she makes that choice, she keeps making it worse.
Yeah. Potentially putting people in danger.
Yeah. Just like Kevin, not a good cop. Lori, I think, not a good therapist.
Yeah. So like this is the thing that really frustrates me about season 3, because there are a lot of things I liked about it, and there are a lot of things that really frustrate me, is that season 2, we are led to believe that there is some type of mystical connection between Kevin and his father and Aboriginal rituals going on in Australia. All of this stuff kind of is like a crescendo of nothing. And then we're left with, oh, by the way, here's Nora Durst, and here's a scientific explanation for why everything happened. And then we're kind of left with it. Did it happen or not? Did she actually teleport? Was it a bunch of bullshit? But I'm going to take the perspective that it was true. Like that is what happened. And she did come back. Like her whole story, her whole narrative is true. And if that's true, like Kevin's story is nonsense. It's absolute and utter fucking nonsense. It doesn't make sense why he just randomly can't die. It doesn't make sense why that transfers to Australia. It doesn't make sense, like, the entire, like, metaphysical, like, fight with his, twin brother and, like, having to stab himself and, like, dig out a key from his own body. That whole very hard to watch sequence. I really feel like Lindelof was the dog that caught the back of the ambulance and had no fucking clue what to do with it. Am I wrong here? Does it not feel like
you
it?
believe Nora's telling the truth.
If
you don't believe that,
yeah.
then it's the other. Then it does make sense. Or
Well,
it doesn't make sense, but it's like it goes down smoother.
I guess so, but does it though? Like, does it actually make sense? Because even if Nora's just lying, what did Kevin's whole ordeal do? The world didn't end. There was no flood. His dad is kind of crazy.
Well, one theory I read when the season 3 first came out that I kind of feel makes sense still was that when Kevin goes, it's like he's going to like limbo almost and freeing souls of people. And so that at the end of the most powerful man in the world, he like freed all of the departed souls that were in limbo by nuking the whole world and killing them basically. Like when he kills them in there, he's setting them free, like, or sending them beyond or whatever. And so when he did that, he like literally like wiped out all the people that were dead or trapped from the departure. I was like, I kind of like, I don't know if that's true, but I like that makes a good story.
That's a reasonable interpretation if Nora's story is not true.
Wait, am I high? But I didn't think that anybody who departed we ever saw in
the kids.
The other place.
We saw her kids.
I thought the kids
they
died. They didn't depart.
Oh, that's right. They died. We didn't see anybody who departed.
Well, maybe it's not the departed. Maybe it's just dead people. Then I don't know. Everyone we see in there is someone that's dead, and then we know that they're dead.
Yeah.
Like Patty was dead. The old dude that followed him into the hotel was dead.
That's like religious interpretation, because that's kind of like Jesus, like going into like the Sheol, the place of the unseen, and freeing the captives. Peter makes reference to this in the New Testament, and I can see that as kind of like a corollary, like interpretation, is that he's like freeing people from a limbo type state. But again, the limbo has nothing to do with the departure, right? Like it's it's unrelated to that.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever know what happened with The Departed.
Again, I will say this: we watch with the subtitles on, and you know the scene where Nora's in the orb naked and the gel is like filling up. What does she say at the end when she screams?
The first time it shows a scene, she clearly makes like a stut, like she's about to say stop, like motion
like
with
stop,
her mouth.
Right?
But then on the flashback, it looked like a different mouth shape to me when they did the flashback. But I assume she's saying stop and she didn't go, and that's why I think her story's a bunch of baloney. But it sounds really good.
I think that's one of the things I think that's one of the ways you can interpret it. Jay, what about you?
I don't think I paid close enough attention to that moment to tell you.
The subtitles when I watched it were like and I was like, that was not an ass sound, that was a stuff sound. So I also felt like what you said, that was intentionally put in there to kind of give you Nora's a liar, like for sure. Nora does not tell the truth, but I don't know. Christy brought this up. She said that like her friends who watched it, who had kids, were like, if you were Nora and you went through the portal and you saw your kids, you would not stand off at a distance. You would cause the scene. You would like run in there. And I was like, well, we get the whole scene with Lily and that like continuation of life demonstration and her seeing that and her kind of getting the shock of Lily not remembering her and the new family or the mom being like, who are you? You know, all that stuff. And I was like, I really feel like that's like that was planted so that we can believe this story. Right? We can believe that this is what Nora did. I don't know. Like, based off of everything that happened in the 3 seasons, do you feel like Nora's explanation of why she came back is reasonable? It makes sense that she would do it?
What, I guess that scientist was just, like, bored. And they
she
just
said
had unlimited resources over there. He's like, yeah, I could do it all by myself. Send her back.
Man, I feel like I feel like a failed parent now because I wasn't even thinking about that emotional aspect of Nora's story and whether or not it was true. I was hung up on the logistics, honestly, because 2% of the world's population is on the other side, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking that world is going to be way closer to The Last of Us than to what Nora's describing, where the streetlights are still on and they're still living in their own house.
Yeah, it's been 7 years.
It's been 7 years, and then she had to get from Australia to New York with no airplanes.
Yes, but here's the one thing I'll say. If you have only 2% of the population, I think she even says that there's plenty of resources. So I don't think you would have a Last of Us situation because I think that there's a scarcity issue there. And I think a lot of the human behavior you see that we associate with like kind of like post-apocalyptic type stuff has to do with scarcity. So if you have no scarcity, then there may be, especially with like everyone disappearing, more of a sense of we're all in this together. So I can see, especially like you look at post-World War II Europe, right? Like there's a lot more where we've all been through collective trauma. We're all in this together type mentality. And so I don't think that that's an unreasonable take that would be the way that it is. I think 2% is super low, right? Like,
yeah,
that it's super, super low.
Definitely agree with you about the resource aspect of it. Like there would be stockpiles for years. But Nora also tells us the reason why the planes don't fly is a lack of pilots. And I think that's going to be the issue.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lack of people with the knowledge and skills able to run the power plants and repair the roads.
Yeah,
and
maintain the boats.
Yeah.
I mean, to some extent, I think you're absolutely right, but there's going to be some level of that. I also think that the world, weirdly, would get smaller. People would kind of coalesce to where other
I don't think
people
everyone's living in Mapleton. I think they're all in New York City.
New York City.
Yeah, they'd be in what was it, the DBZ? What was it in Last of Us?
I
mean, there's a DMZ, which is like
demilitarized zone.
But what was like the fortress cities that were run by the fascists?
Yeah, it's something like a DMZ. It's like the Z for zombie. Ew.
I have no idea. I can't remember.
Anyway, like I think humanity would be able to cobble together some survival, but
quarantine zones,
maybe.
But like farmers,
I need to suspend my disbelief a little more. But like having Nora find the scientist and have him be able to rebuild the machine. Like, I think I might have just been primed to think that Nora was lying for the beginning, because I was just like, nah, this is too far-fetched.
Well, it is the unfortunate, it's worse. Like, Lori's baby just fell onto a table and died because there was no one around in the hospital, probably. And then, like, the baby was in the shopping cart. No one was in the supermarket anymore, so it probably just rolled away down the street until someone walked by. Horrible things happened, probably. Like planes crashed that we saw in the first season. All the planes crashed, probably.
Yeah, majority of the planes
in
crashed.
the other world. If that's
of
true.
course, nobody was on them, so they just crashed.
Oh yeah, I guess just
kind of just fell out of the sky. Yeah, like 12 people died that
10
day.
People.
Which is like a massacre. It's like most of the population.
Imagine being the one guy left in the city that the plane hits, that there's nobody left on the plane and there's nobody left on the city, but the plane still hits you.
You're the one guy. You're like, why?
Yeah. And Jordan's is like the opposite of Miracle. It's like everybody literally disappeared from that city.
Yeah. It's like the curse zone. Nobody wants to go there.
It's good because it's written well enough. And like, I mean, obviously it doesn't say how many years later it is. Later and long enough for everyone to get married and have kids and be old. So, I mean, she's had time to work on a story. It is well thought out, and the description's good enough to where it's like, you really don't know if it's true or not.
Well, my lady wife, Lindsay, and I have been working on a theory that I'm not married to yet, but it's that what we see in the last episode with Nora and the birds and Kevin and her calling Lori, this is another afterlife. If where we saw Kevin go earlier was something closer to purgatory, then what we see at the end is closer to heaven. Where, just like the afterlives we saw in the previous episodes, everyone there, at least the ones who we know who they are, we know them to be dead. We saw Lori go under the water at the end of the last episode, and we haven't heard from her since. And she's the one person from the show, other than Kevin and Nora, who appears in that episode. And everybody's got their happy ending. Lori's got a new baby.
That's Jill's baby, I'm pretty sure.
That's not your baby.
It's her
the one that Lori has when she's on the phone?
Yeah.
Okay, that's possible.
I do feel like they gave her like a futuristic looking cell phone. It had like a weird like metal wedge shape, like you could barely see the cell phone in her hand. So I felt like that kind of like was a thing, like they were in the future a little bit.
I also feel like that's a really shitty heaven, only because like Kevin and Nora clearly are not having a great time. I don't know. The last episode is one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. I actually really, really enjoyed the episode. But I also I do very much take I entertain the idea that this is possible, right? And so for whatever reason, if it's not, that's also fine. You know, Australia's a weird place to kind of live out the rest of your days, though. Right? And honestly, how lucrative is capturing...
She's getting massive wads of cash. I guess it's weddings. So everything's marked up for weddings.
I guess so, but is it really like the Australian countryside that hot shit of a venue for weddings? Like that she's like rolling in it and can pay for... I guess, pre-pandemic, that house probably cost $12 to live in. So, she sells one bird and she's got her mortgage paid. But... I don't know. I there are definitely things about it that I find silly, but I find Nora to be a silly person. Like I feel like we're not going to lie to each other, and then like he's like I lied to you because I didn't want you to leave. She immediately leaves. Like there are so many points where I'm like, Nora, you make such weird choices, but like I completely believe she would go based off of like everything that she's been through and how much her trauma affected her. Like I really feel like she would go through.
Right, and to go with the heaven theory, she went in and it's not a portal, it's a suicide machine, and she died. And then Kevin, when he talks about his heart attack, he died from that heart attack.
Maybe so.
Now, to talk about the technology, what is up with that phone booth that Nora uses to call Lori? It's on a dirt road. Like, number one,
it looked like satellite. It had something like Telestro or something, like some sort of tele name. It looked like it had a big antenna on top of it.
I think it's like Telestra or something like that. That's the name of the telecom company in Australia. That's a real thing.
I see.
So if, like you said, this is the future. So if this is the future, why is there a coin-operated phone booth on a dirt road? What the hell is up with that?
She put a card in the slot, I think.
Yeah, but there were still slots for coins.
Oh, I don't know.
When did, I guess, payphones disappear in the United States? Because I'm trying to think. I remember seeing them for a long time, and then they were just gone.
There used to be banks of them in malls.
Yeah.
Probably there was in airports and subway stations. They're probably all mostly gone now. I don't know. It's hard to say.
10 years ago. I definitely feel like they were disappearing before then. And this is definitely in the future, so why would they be around?
The hard thing about it is if she's lying, that it's like, what was she doing? Was she so embarrassed that she couldn't go through with it? That she just wanted to punish herself and live alone? She's off the grid. She got solar panels and she doesn't even have a phone, I guess, and she has to ride her bicycle to a random dirt road payphone or whatever. It's that's the hard part to believe that she would just and not even go to Matt's funeral. Guess she didn't really want to see Kevin, except that she really did.
My headcanon about Nora and money was that she was just so flush with cash from her departure benefits that
that's true.
She didn't really need to work anymore. And so the Australia thing was kind of like the movie trope of Stanley at the office moving to, Costa Rica at the end of the show, where he just gets away from everybody, becomes a shut-in, and lives out their life.
I don't know. I like to think that all the Kevin stuff was real just because it's a better story. There's so many connections that it's hard to say how could it not, the connection of his dad. I'm pretty sure they haven't had any contact, or I guess the show doesn't show us that they've had contact to share the story, and he's talking about he's on God's tongue, and he's talking about how he saw Kevin in the hotel room, and that's what he saw.
That's what I'm saying, is that they clearly set it up that there's this real mystical, metaphysical thing going on, apart from the sudden departure, apart from Nora's quest from truth. We are led down this very interesting and fascinating metaphysical journey. And I don't know, what did you walk away from that whole scene at the end where he wakes up and he's like, the flood's not coming and there is no song and all that stuff?
I think it was the dad's arc was kind of he thought he was the chosen one, but he wasn't. The last thing they told him was to go to Australia, and they never talked to him again. And he kind of gave himself... He was kind of trying to grasp at anything that he encountered on there was oh, this must be what I was supposed to do. And that's he was fixated on the idea that he was supposed to stop the flood, but there was no flood coming. And it was Kevin Jr. that was the chosen one, basically.
And I guess he's freeing the souls. But I guess the problem I have with the freeing the souls theory is, number one, how often are these people that free souls born into existence? Is there now a new soul trap that's catching everyone since Kevin set the bomb off? Is it now he cleared out the cache of souls, cleared the browser history, and now it's going to start building a new one? That's my only problem with that interpretation is what's the point?
Maybe that place was created when the departure happened. And then everyone who died after the departure, their souls were trapped there. And he destroyed it or something, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I kind of Christy loves that, what's her name, Patty comes back. But I don't know. Didn't it kind of feel like Patty's story ended in season 2?
Yes.
Right? I don't know.
I think that was half fan service, half show.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's fan service because I definitely think that she is a good actress and she played well with Kevin. But I kind of was that's why, to me, freeing the souls, he sure fucking freed her last time. She's still there.
Yeah, that's why she said I came back, you summoned me, and I came back because you helped me, so I came back to help you, is kind of what she says there.
Would you believe that the only Emmy Award nomination for this show was for Ann Dowd playing Patty in that episode?
What? I don't know.
She was nominated for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Drama Series in 2017, and that is the only Primetime Emmy nomination for The Leftovers.
That's interesting.
I did when I was watching it. This last season every season was good. This last season was good too. And I was just like, it really is the best show no one's ever watched that I know, except for y'all. And I guess the people, the 1 or 2 viewers that's going to listen to this podcast. And also, it's like, Justin Theroux's so good, but he's just not been, like, I guess he needs the right material. Because Mosquito Coast, not that great. The Watergate thing. I mean, he was, I think that's what he just had.
He was great.
He was good. He just had a little bit to work with. And then I think he was good in Maniac, but it's been a long time since I saw that.
Oh, yeah. Maniac was good.
Maniac was really good.
But Aaron earlier used the phrase, was it dog with an ambulance?
Yeah.
I almost said that verbatim to Lindsay a few days ago, where I wish I should have done more research, but there is this pattern, this effect with creativity that I think you see most often with like music, where you have your first album and it's the one that you've had to kind of work and create over many years, sweat over it with very little resources. And it's your breakout hit. You get some notoriety. So you get signed to a record deal. And you put out your second album with a little bit better funding. And that is the one that explodes and goes international and launches your worldwide tour. And so for your third album, everybody's telling you how great you are. You have all of the resources in the universe to create whatever you can. And it flops because you make something terrible because you don't have anybody telling you no.
So you're saying that the Buddhists were right and all great things come from suffering?
Yes. I think I am. I'm Irish, you know.
There's a certain thing to what you're saying. I think that there's also like that first album also, like you said, you're gestating on it for quite a while. You're creating something. I think you also have what's called the sophomore slump, and it depends on the band. It depends on the artist. Like when they get in there and they just like don't have that extra time to put out something, you know? Mm-hmm. And so like it just comes out as lower quality. I'm a firm believer that Megadeth has been a part of this weird conspiracy strategy. Like they have like a certain number of records they have to release every so many months. And like, it's weird. They put out a good album, they put out a garbage album. They put out a good album, they put out a garbage album. I am firmly convinced that Dave Mustaine just writes like a shit ton of music, takes the best ones and puts it on album. Then he then takes all the garbage ones and puts them on the next album so that he can have that extra time to write more music.
It's like Adam Sandler with Netflix, right?
Yeah. No, Adam Sandler's a little different. Is he just figured out that he can get Netflix to pay for his vacation if he filmed like some dumb shit at it.
All his friends along the way.
Brilliant move, but yeah, like with I don't know, like does anyone consider Adam Sandler to be a serious person or actor? I mean,
I think he has a lot of critically acclaimed like dramatic roles that he's done.
I hear that. I just am not willing to watch them.
Dude, you should check out Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. Right.
I think we talked about it on previous episodes, but that is a fantastic film, and I think you especially would love it.
I have heard really good things. People have raved about it, but I don't know. Like, I was such a believer in Adam Sandler for so long, and I watched some of the garbage that he put out on Netflix. Yeah. And I just was like, ooh, that's not worth my time.
Speaking of Adam Sandler on Netflix, did you see Happy Gilmore 2? Been announced?
I don't know that I had not seen that, no.
Yeah, I'd seen that. And I think that goes with what Aaron was saying of like Megadeth, where it's almost like if you have a contract to pump out some stuff, some of what you're going to pump out is shit. Where it's like Adam Sandler's like, I got 6 more movies, so you guys want Happy Gilmore 2?
Again, we live in the age of reprisals. Like the first Arrested Development re-release or whatever was fun. The one right after that was garbage. Yeah. Right? So it really depends, right? I'd give Happy Gilmore 2 a shot, mainly because you do have a fun, lore-filled world that you can pull from of ridiculousness. My problem is, please don't just make it another fucking Grown-Ups. Like, I don't know if I can handle just like a bunch of shitty acting and shitty jokes. Like, it gets back to what you were saying. Like Adam Sandler, I'm pretty sure when Happy Gilmore came out, he had been fired from SNL. Right? He was out on his own, and what does he do? He writes and puts out these like great movies and establishes himself in that time frame. as one. I don't know about you, but like we used to rent movies from the local video rental store every Friday night, and Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. I don't know why my parents let me rent these movies, if I'm being honest, but like those got rented on a regular basis, along with like Down Periscope and McHale's Navy.
McHale's Navy, yeah.
Yeah, there was just like a round of movies that I rented on a regular basis and watched over and over again, and Happy Gilmore's definitely one of those.
Yeah, I had kind of a mixture of the local video store, and then every once in a while we would get like Stars free for a month, and so we would buy a bunch of blank tapes and then bootleg the movies that came on. And so I can't tell you why, but there was a bootleg of Big Daddy that I like wore out. Like, not even really one of the classics, but like I loved that movie. Little Nicky too. I had a Little Nicky phase.
I wipe my own ass.
That cracked me up at the time.
It's a good one. So, okay, here's the question. They reboot The Leftovers. Okay, it's been a decade. What did they do different? Like, do they lean into the metaphysics and make it real? Do they like? Are you happy with this ending? Because I feel like they definitely left it where like, oh, you can kind of choose. I don't feel like they really gave us a choice. I feel like they left us with no answers, really. Like, you can choose to believe Nora. It's kind of an unbelievable story. But I also don't feel that. I feel very let down by Kevin's ultimate pilgrimage. And that's why I said the whole thing about the dog catching the ambulance. I feel that Lindelof didn't know what to do at the end of the day with the story he had created. So he just kind of let it not mean anything. And I guess you could take that as a cultural kind of commentary on religion. Oh, religion is this big journey of nothing, and it doesn't really mean anything, and you got to create your own meaning. And I think that that's a fair interpretation, but it really felt like we were leading to something.
Man, I just keep hearing my words come out of your mouth.
Me and Christy talked about this quite extensively over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. The first time that I watched this show, I remember going into, I think, The Most Powerful Man in the World. I remember telling Lindsay, who hadn't been watching the show, it feels like this show is going somewhere. And if it is, it could be one of the greats in television history. But I've got a feeling that it's not. And 2 watches later, I still feel like it's not.
Did you just feel he didn't land it?
Yeah, no. Like, it felt like a big bag of nothing at the end. But Lindsay, though, I thought that she was going to end up hating the show. But it ends, and I ask her what she thinks about the ending, and she says, I liked it. I liked that it, in the end, was a love story about Kevin and Nora, and it ended with them deciding to be together again. And I think, me personally, even at the end of that episode, I didn't want Kevin and Nora to be together. I still thought that they were bad for each other.
Interesting. You thought they were bad because they're both dysfunctional?
I guess I took Nora at her word when she's on the plane and she tells Kevin we're codependent and we've both decided that we're better off without each other. And I wanted Kevin to move on with his life the way that they were trying to in season 2. I was disappointed that it was gray hair, wrinkled face years later, and he's searching Australia 2 weeks a year. Man, using up your vacation to go search for somebody who's hiding from you on the other side of the world. That's hardcore.
It is. And again, I'm just going to say, pulling from biblical stuff, I think it was Jacob works for 7 years to marry someone, gets married to her sister, instead has to work another 7 years to marry the girl he wanted to marry. That kind of dedication to searching for something, I could see that being thematic to the whole biblical pilgrimage kind of journey aspect. So for me, I don't know. Don't really like a lot of the choices that Nora made. I definitely complained and bitched about a lot of those. And again, I think that Kevin is crazy and definitely would hide the fact that he was going nuts before letting anyone know that he was going nuts. And again, people just seem to let him be crazy. I'm going to go drown myself. If the metaphysics are real, then he's not crazy. right? Like that's the one caveat. Whereas whether or not the 2% were teleported to another place, Nora's shitty behavior is just Nora being shitty. Like whenever she snapped at, what's the son's name? Tom?
Mm-hmm.
When she snapped at Tom, and then he was like, I wish you'd never left the baby for me. And he was like, I didn't leave for you. I didn't even know you existed. Right? Like her shitty behavior is just her being her.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And when she goes nuclear, she goes nuclear. She has like
she goes
some
nuclear,
venom.
but yeah, she can be spiteful. But most of the time it just blows back. Like it doesn't, it never lands, right? Like I feel like when she did that to her neighbor, right? Her neighbor just kind of flipped the script and was like, where were you? What was the last thing you said to your kids? Mm-hmm. You know, and she immediately like crumples up and starts crying. So I don't know. I feel that Nora is ridiculous as a person, but I also feel like people like Kevin have kryptonite, and I feel like Nora was Kevin's kryptonite. And so it doesn't matter what she does. It doesn't matter how she acts. She is a weakness for him. And so to me, because I have met people like this who can't let go of something, can't let go of a person, to me it was believable, I guess I could say.
Yeah, believable. I didn't like it. I just didn't like it.
So, okay, comparing this to like Miss Davis or to Watchmen, like, do you feel that there's any elements that are like a stream between these, like, does Lindelof bleed through in all of these pieces of art that we've watched? Like, do you see his evolution as a director from these shows at all? Like, what do you guys think?
I might need your guys' help to trace an evolution, but the theme of purpose in your life definitely runs through all of them.
I would agree with that. Some exploration of purpose, existence, existentialism.
Yeah, because, I mean, isn't, like, Dr. Manhattan is just one big existential crisis, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's definitely exploration of purpose. So Lindelof definitely, his storytelling is obsessed with, focused on exploration of purpose. Yeah, I think that's a good analysis of everything.
And that was a big part of Lost, too, with, oh, God, why does my mind always leave me when we get these microphones turned on? Not Jake. What was the main doctor guy? Jack.
We have to go back.
Yeah, we have to go back.
Is that why you think the last episode's heaven? Because in Lost, when they went back to the island, they died. In that last little bit, they were dead, but the other parts, they weren't dead.
I do think it's a cop-out, I think. Like, oh, you know, everybody's just in heaven at the end again. Like, I don't like it as an ending, but I don't know if there is an ending that I can like to this show, and maybe that's the point.
Well, okay, so has he gotten better at exploring themes of purpose? Like, do you feel that he did a better job of exploring that in Watchmen or in Miss Davis, or was it better done here? Like, I guess, how would you evaluate that? Because I definitely agree with you that purpose is a huge component of Watchmen. I have a lot of complaints about Watchmen, but I do agree with that. Miss Davis, I feel like the existential question of Miss Davis is a little different. It's kind of like purpose in the face of AI, purpose in the face of something, versus just, I feel like Leftovers is, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is purpose in the face of loss. Maybe it's more focused on you know, going through something traumatic, and that's a different type of purpose.
I don't know if it's because I like sad stuff, but to me, Leftovers is peak. Like I did like Lost. I remember liking the Watchmen a lot, but I really don't remember what happened a ton in Watchmen. And then Miss Davis was less serious. I think what he does best is like he creates like, I don't want, lore is too strong of a word, but I think it was season 2 we were talking about how they plan for the future. Like there's always like, he's really good at streaming in flashbacks, and I feel like when there's flashbacks, you can see how it was connected to what's happening now. Or like
world building.
I feel like season 1 and season 2 they did that. They went back and they showed things from different angles. What was I thinking? I think it was when like the mom's in the parking lot with the baby, and that's the same place that Matt's wife crashes the car and has her injury, and there's like multiple angles and stuff like that. And then I feel like Watchmen had a lot of like flashbacks to the past or like interconnected moments where it's like, I know it's not just him, it's a writer's room, but like I feel like people are actually trying to like make things stitch together in a way that like I appreciate it. When
immersive.
Yeah. But I think Leftovers is peak for me. So Kevin was going back to the hotel over and over again when he was suffocating himself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He was going back there. I don't know. I think that's why he was so confident in killing himself at the end. And I think maybe that's what he was nuking the world for, so that he couldn't come back. Like his other self said, is like, we gotta do this so we can't run away here anymore, so we can be with Nora. So he just like nuked the whole thing so he couldn't kill himself anymore. And then I think I remember back when season 3 came out, one of the online theories was like he had some sort of heart defect that was bringing him back to life, and that's what like got taken away when he had his heart attack and they went in there and found it. So he can't die and come back anymore in the future or whatever.
Science has taken away your ability to resurrect yourself.
Science, yeah. Well, we may veer dangerously close to podcast as therapy session, but season 3 to me felt like it was about depression, and especially about hopelessness, and about what a horrible, horrible world it would be to live in when no one cares. Because I think a lot of people misunderstand depression and how that actually affects a person on a day-to-day basis. Because for a lot of people, that manifests as hopelessness, meaning that nothing matters. They're not sad about it. They're not angry about it. They're not happy about it. They don't feel anything about it. They don't care. And if you don't care, it's a very dangerous world, because no one's life matters. Yours doesn't. Nobody else does. And so you've got the French guy on the submarine doing crazy stuff because nothing matters.
I mean, it's Nietzsche's God is dead and we have killed him, and everyone laughs, but the madman is screaming because we don't realize that if there is no morals, if there is no goodness or reason for why we should be good, then again, horrible things, atrocities can happen is kind of the theory. But I think that's why kind of like existential philosophy kind of gives rise post, like during and post World War II, is that there is such horrific things happening, in the 20th century, some of the horrific war crimes of the Nazis and the Japanese. And despite that, like, if there is no meaning to everything, then, you can look at it as that's awful, or you can look at that as that means that it doesn't really matter when you mess up, right? Like, that's kind of the alternate way, is that, like, there's two ways to look at that, to cut that horse. You don't have to look at it as, oh, everything is meaningless, so why try? Everything is meaningless, so why be held back? Why not try? Why not do something? Why not create something? Why not make that piece of art? Why not write that story, that poem, that piece of music? Why not create your purpose? Because it doesn't matter, right? And I think that's kind of the whole idea behind the existential philosophy, Sartre and stuff like that, is that you have to choose your own meaning. And I think that definitely Lindelof is exploring this theme in this season, that to some extent with Nora's choice, her quest, if you will, and Kevin's journey, they're choosing to find their purpose in their journey, in their experience. Because ultimately it just means whatever it means to them at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do like that the ending is Nora and Kevin choosing hope. So I'm glad that they left that there. And I guess if what I was advocating for earlier happened, where they just moved on with their lives and got different partners, well, that doesn't make a very good ending to a TV show.
Nope. And you don't really get any closure. And I definitely feel like, to some extent, it was more about closure than anything else. Right?
Definitely.
Also, if Kevin doesn't have his outburst, like, is it really their relationship? Like, that's what I like. The whole time he's being nice and everything, I'm like, this is surreal. When he comes, he's like, "All right, Nora, do you want to hear the truth?" I was like, now this is Kevin and Nora.
think what hits so hard about the show is like, it's got to be realistic of like, you can't move past your grief if there's something that you don't understand, like, I guess. And I feel like that's what would happen. Like if people just like, obviously that goes against everything we like know about the real world. It's like everyone just like poofed. And like, so that like anything could be possible after that. And it's just like, yeah, I feel it's realistic that the people, when you see people die, they're gone and you can get over it. But like Nora, especially since it was her young children, it's like, she'll never know and she'll never be okay. Hopefully she is at the end, like, I guess time or whatever, but it's just like, I feel like it's realistic that people would never be able to get over it.
I mean, I think that's why, like, whenever the people, like, stories about immortality and things like that happen, you know, a lot of times the immortal is depicted as wanting to die because you can't get rid of the trauma. You can't get rid of the bad memories. Like, they always are there, right? Like, you can learn to live with them to some extent. But, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's where a lot, like, I feel like it's always like depicted as like, what do you think it's like to see all of your loved ones die and each person that you become attached to die? Like, I feel like that has to have some impact on the psyche, right? So I feel like life is definitely a journey of learning how to cope with things and deal with things and stuff like that. So will Nora ever fully be past it? I don't know. I don't think so. But you have to learn to find, and she would have to learn to find, like, some level of enjoyment with life in her carrier pigeons.
I've got a question about David Burton, the Australian guy who also claimed he couldn't die.
Oh, the God guy? It's like, I'm God?
Yeah.
God. So, I guess two questions. One, assuming that he's like Kevin and he can't die, what happened after the lion ate him? Because, like, Kevin got shot gruesomely and survived. So, could you be completely mangled and digested by a lion and still come back?
Maybe there's limits on that. Maybe it's like Highlander, like as long as you don't cut off the head, it's okay, but that lion severed his spinal cord, so...
Because we don't see him again, so it kind of feels like the show is telling us that was the end for him.
Well, he's the guy on the radio telling him what to do in the most powerful man in the world.
So maybe he's like the arm, and he's like a tree? Like he can speak? But, because we don't see him, we just hear him, right?
I know this is silly, but all I can think of is Ezekiel 37 and the dry bones and the flesh rendering back onto the bones and life being brought back from, you know, basically dust to full form bodies. So if we're talking again scripturally, sure, why not? But like, again, I think that probably he did not, because I don't know that his throat is going to jump out of the lion's stomach.
So other question, if I'm remembering correctly, when he's talking to Matt, he explains Jesus' resurrection as Jesus had a secret identical twin brother, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the Gnostic Gospels. It was the Book of Thomas.
So is that what happened to David Burton? That real David Burton died in that climbing accident, and it was his brother who was sitting in the cave when they came back, who now assumed his identity and calls himself God?
Yeah, sure. He just like happened to find out that his brother fell and like ran out there first and got naked in the cave.
Because then we'd have real David Burton in the afterlife that we see on the bridge and on the radio and such, and then fake David Burton is the one on the boat who gets eaten by the lion, and well, he's not the immortal one anyway. Well, I guess nobody's immortal, but...
What if it was just 5 shadowing for Kevin, who's Jesus? He has an identical twin brother.
I definitely think that... I didn't even pick up that was the guy on the bridge and in the bar.
Yeah.
I didn't even pick up on that, so that's good. Definitely the twin brother thing makes sense. But now I just feel like Lindelof just is copying Beer Fest, you know, with Landfill. Like he was like, all right, guys, we got to figure out something for this 3rd season. It's going to be something kick. I've been watching this movie last night. It was called Beer Fest. Boom, twin brother. Just bring back the character.
Now, one of the most controversial characters on the show has been the Reverend Matt Jameson. So, Aaron, how did you feel about Matt's story in season 3 and where they left him?
I feel like, number one, I feel like it's a little inconsistent Like, I really like Matt as a character. I feel like through the first 2 seasons, like the first season, it's all about him, like, trying to disprove that there's anything divine about the sudden departure. The second season is all about proving that there is something divine about Jarden and that he didn't rape his wife while she was non-compass. And then also the third season here, it's desperate, right? It's another form of desperation, but this time it's desperate to believe in something that he's not sure of. You know, he's writing the book, he's got all these stories, and he's like, you know, you're the Messiah, you're the whatever. But I almost feel like, you know, like the scene where he's like talking to Mr. Burton as God and asking about the cancer coming back and all that stuff. Like it just felt a bit inconsistent that he would fight so hard for his wife and his son, you know, and all this stuff just to give it up. And so I don't feel like we have a consistent Matt. I still like Matt. I think the actor does a good job, but I had a hard time really believing a lot of the things that Matt's choosing to do in season 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I will say. I just feel like season 3 Matt's the weakest of the 3 versions of Matt.
Yeah, it felt like the Boat with the Lion episode was almost like they started from the end and worked backwards, where they were like, all right, so we need to end with Matt talking to God and yelling at him. So how do we get there?
Yeah, I definitely feel that Matt's story kind of, where they needed to land it. They just needed to have some ending. They give him his disease. He needs to be there to say goodbye to Nora. But outside of that, like, I just feel like his ending is very unfulfilling.
Yeah.
Right? And perhaps it's kind of like a Moses type thing. Like, he's not going to get to see the promised land. He's not going to get to see the fulfillment of everything. He's going to die. I felt like that was probably the weakest storyline in season 3 was Matt's, because, you know, I don't know. I feel like Matt in season 1 and 2, there's a huge component to what he's doing. He's either trying to prove that the sudden departure isn't something that people think it is, or he's trying to, you know, show people hope in Miracle and Jarden and that miracles do exist. Here, I don't know. It just feels like Matt's taken on a different role than the first 2 seasons, and I don't know. It was just kind of not doing it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like him. I really like Matt as a character to the most part. I just don't feel that it's believable that he would just basically let his relationship with his wife that he worked so hard to protect die on the vine.
I don't know. I just take everything too easily. I took it as like he was, I don't know. He's dumb, obviously, but I feel like he thought it might be better if he just died quietly out of the way or something like that, since his stuff came back and like all the stuff he said he was scared of with Nora. I think he was feeling, and he was angry. I guess I wipe away most of the episode on the boat because I really do like the conversation he has after he has David Burton tied up and stuff, and he's just like, "I've done all this stuff for you. Like, why are you punishing me?" Basically, and he's like, "You only did it for yourself." And I feel like that's Matt had his revelation of he has just been living his life trying to do what he thought someone would give him credit for or something because he didn't die as a child to his illness or something. I liked it. I liked the way he kind of like accepted that he didn't really lose his faith, but he just kind of accepted that he'd been going about it wrong and that everyone has their own journey and stuff. I loved his little last scene with Nora with the Mat Libs.
Yeah. During that last scene together, it made me think, man, I wish we had gotten more interaction between these two throughout the whole show.
But doesn't that feel like he was just kept around for Nora's ending?
A little bit. Like, getting him, he has to be in Australia to do that. So then you have to do the whole, he's writing a book about Kevin thing, which kind of doesn't make sense from season 1 and season 2, Matt. But you got to get him to Australia.
Yep.
Also,
that's
plane,
what I mean.
That plane with the propellers, you're not flying that from Austin to Australia. There's no way.
No.
You're not just getting a random plane to a random destination either. Like,
yeah, like I can explain away Nora having money with her departure benefits, but where is Deep Pockets Matt getting the funding for this expedition?
He sold all of his Bibles, his antique Bibles he's collected.
Oh.
That was being facetious. So I don't remember. Did we do a rating like for all of the seasons simultaneously? Because I feel like we did actually come to a final rating with the last megasode, but I don't remember how we did it.
We did do ratings for Twin Peaks, and I think we just did it for the show as a whole, scale of to 10, like any others.
But what's the rating system?
Book of Kevin's.
Book of Kevin's? Okay.
That just came off the top of my head. I don't know.
Penis biometric devices.
Ooh, penis scanners. I like that.
Ooh, yeah. That was definitely some fan, like, calling out the fans, I think. Because I think if I remember when this show was coming out, that everyone was talking about Thoreau's big schlong, like, in his sweats and stuff. And so, like, it was hilarious in season 3. They kind of, like, called out to that with the penis scanner thing. No one's going to go to that length.
Right. Like that. I
And
think
the
there
sound
were
effect.
paparazzi photos of Justin Theroux jogging in the sweatpants, and you could see some bulging. And so, yeah. And I think there's also a part in International Assassin where he's being patted down by security.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy grabs his junk and goes, "Oh, congratulations."
Congratulations, yeah.
There was a lot of jokes in the first 2 episodes too. I think I feel like Nora had some funny jokes. I just remember I think Kevin had some funny jokes too. I just can't remember them now, but I feel like there was more humor that I remember being in this season. I guess it fell off towards the other episodes, but
Like I definitely agree about the comedy where in season 1 we kind of got the chuckles of the twins, but in season 2 and 3 the humor evolves and it gets darker, but it's still funny.
Mm-hmm. It's more mature.
But speaking of the opposite of that, if our rating system is going to be biometric scanning devices, Tony, the slot is down. It's waiting for you. So go ahead and sidle on up and tell us how many biometric devices.
You know I'm biased, so I'm going to give it the full 9 inches. I've liked this show in the seasons. I mean, to be fair, I think season 1 I've watched like 2 or 3 times, I think. Maybe season 2, I usually just kind of go straight towards International Assassin. And then season 3, this is my first rewatch. But I enjoyed every minute of it. And I want people to watch it so I can talk about them. I love talking about it with you guys. I'd love to talk about it with more people. So I'm going to give it a 9. Biometric scanners.
Very nice. I think for me, season 1 is roughly, I'd call that 8 scanning devices. I think season 2 is 10 scanning devices. Season 3, not as into it, more of like a 6 scanning devices. So I think where I'm going to land is 8. Because
I like it.
Before this rewatch, I think I would, in my mind, this show was still a all-time great of television history. After watching it, I still love it. I think I'm going to downgrade it to great show that I would definitely recommend to basically anybody. But I'm just going to take it just outside of that pantheon of greatness. No disrespect, of course. But how about you, Aaron?
I feel like it's a good show. I like this show. I want to argue with Lindelof on a lot of things. I give it a 7.5 inches on the biometric scanner. And I agree with you. I think that the first time through, it had such an emotional impact on me, like watching through it, especially watching it with like Christy. This time, it didn't carry the emotional punch that it did the first time. And because of that, Christy was just like weeping through the entire thing. Like there were just like long periods of her crying. I did not cry at all, but I did enjoy the acting, I enjoyed the performance, and I enjoyed the exploration of metaphysics. I feel like that's something that's not really done very often in modern television, metaphysics and surreal kind of artistic expression. So I definitely appreciate that. So it's a 7.5 for me.
I do think there is a little bit of something lost of like there's not twists per se, but there's big moments where when you don't know they're coming hit harder. Like when he pushes her into the well, International Assassin, like that is like that shocked the crap out of me when it happened. I was like, I can't believe he actually did it. And then drown like Patty and the other parts, like people getting the missile blowing everybody up and like and you don't know if he's gonna like set off all the nukes and stuff, like, but you do know it on the rewatch. So there was a lot of, definitely it mutes a lot of the bigger, like, oh my God, I can't believe that actually happened or they did that part of it.
Agreed.
Well, we've got 9 inches, 8 inches, 7.5 inches. That comes to a composite score of 8.16 repeating inches.
It's pretty good.
That is pretty good. It's tied with season 1 of The White Lotus, which is quite acclaimed. It's just below Doom Patrol, just above Atlanta. So amongst very good company. And amongst megasodes, it's just shyly in second place behind Twin Peaks at 8.3 repeating.
We'll just refer to 8.1 as the Thoreau inch. Like,
it's actually 8.1.
8.16.
8.16 repeating.
Well, this megasode has been many months and many blood, sweat, and tears in the making, but it has been an enormous pleasure to discuss one of my favorite shows in the world with you guys. So I want to thank you for joining me on this crazy journey.
Happy to share it with my favorite people.
Mm-hmm. It was a good time back down memory lane too, to kind of remember it, especially since I forgot so much that happened at the end.
As always, we want to thank our executive producer, Dick Wolf. Oh, damn it, Dick Wolf. We are looking forward to our next megasode, which is tentatively set for episode 100. We'll have something good for you. We haven't quite decided yet, but we'll have something good for you. We'll be back next time with Shogun. We're also going to have some changes to how we do the Wheel of Randomonium. We think that'll be a lot of fun, too. So, until next time...
I've got the next megasode. Seasons 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones, maybe.
That's a 5 shadow of the changes to the Wheel of Randomonium right there. But until next time, I think we will let the mystery be.
Who's the guy, Justin Thoreau?
Yeah, huge dick.
Giant wiener.
Yeah.
He's a great actor.